everyone, we are very much on time and very happy to see you all. Hope you're well on this Friday, the 2nd of September. Yes, it is the 2nd of September. Today we're going to be doing it's going to be a humongous task. Will we finish before my tattoo consult at 7 p.m? Who the hell knows? We will find out.
Dinner. I gotta make dinner.
I have to go watch Rings of Power, so
Rings of Power.
I'm busy. I'm gonna go over to my friend's house and we're watching it, so I got something to do at 6.
So these lot are the ones who wanted to go through the story. I'm just saying, okay? I'm just saying, you want us to do this, and I'm prepared.
Boots no longer gets to talk on this podcast.
It's true. I understand.
Wait, why? What didn't happen?
Boots got interrupted like 7 times.
So
I mean, we're
just like
paying
you
Boots.
playing in PvP against a spellbreaker, just interrupted.
We're just paying Boots back for all the other times.
I've never done it before.
You've never done.
Fake.
What did you get? What did you say? Yeah.
It's not. Oh, sorry. I was just saying hi, and I'm very happy to be here.
Are you cooking dinner tonight? That seemed to be what you were gonna talk about.
Oh yeah. I'll cook dinner tonight. I think it's either gonna be a Thai noodle salad, or I'm gonna make like a cabbage soup.
That sounds good.
That sounds tasty.
Because I already made my go-to miso glazed salmon earlier in the week, so I can't do that again.
Boots, you should have been on that cooking stream with us. Where were you?
True.
I'm pretty damn good at cooking, let me tell you. But the issue is that I'm just not as photogenically beautiful on camera as you two.
No, incorrect.
Neither am I, and that never stops me.
Okay, incorrect to both of you.
You just have to have some delusion.
Really good faces. No.
We're really talking about looks right now. Come on, man.
Wow.
Let's not go there, people.
Wait, when I bring up my looks, Jebro, why do you say let's change the subject? Because
why do I say? Because your looks don't matter. Your talent does.
If you can't say anything nice, don't say anything.
No. That's not what I meant.
Okay.
I meant it doesn't matter.
I am nipping this in the bud. We are all hot. I'm putting it out there. We are all hot. Jebro, take this away. End of Dragon story.
Thank
We're
you
on
very
limited
much.
time. We gotta
Talking
do
about
this.
look. And whispers, true. Hello everyone in chat. How are you doing today? I hope you're well. Today we're going to talk about End of Dragon story. It's gonna be a big one because there's a lot of story and it takes a long time to do. And if you're me, you're gonna be up till 4 a.m. in the morning writing notes because you forgot everything. So there is I remember everything now. Well, mostly. I might need some help here and there. We talked about the story a little bit. Kroof is very happy about this. I'm just gonna know.
I love the story.
So good. How could you not be happy about this? It's so good.
I am.
Jebro.
No. I am happy. It's just that I'm very tired.
We're all tired,
How
Jebro.
tired are you?
I listened to
together.
Kroof for many hours, which was very
yeah.
good. And you
that is
hyped me
tiring.
up. And then I was watching all the videos and I was like, it's 10 past 3. And I finished streaming at 12 a.m. And I'm like,
I told you to skip through them.
No, but it was good. But you edited, so if you've not seen Kroof's videos, so Kroof has made 4 videos which last for about 47 to 49 minutes. And it's not just commentary, but like you don't talk all the time, like stop to hear the things. So it's like you're literally playing it and there's no overlay, there's nothing, which is perfect because I'm going to show a lot of it. And
Yeah.
and I was like, you talked at the bits, and I was like, oh, your like enjoyment was when I definitely enjoyed it, and you will all probably, if I do play audio, you'll all probably get that as well, and you'll feel it. But like, it was just cool. I was just like, and reliving it, and like towards the end, I was like, oh damn, I was getting the feels from like almost playing it again. I was just like, this was really good, and it was really special, and it was probably it's probably the best damn story in the game. It probably, literally, maybe the best story. But we'll talk about that. First of all, I'm gonna skip intros today. I'm gonna skip them
Well,
because
y'all know us.
you do. You really do right now. If you don't, description below. Rookery, Kroof, and Boots all stream. Boots doesn't stream as much.
Not
the
anymore
others who do.
because I think I have to cut down on my streaming a little. I got stuff I gotta do.
I'm streaming like
No,
once.
sorry.
You don't know.
Yeah, I think I might do once a week maybe now instead of twice a week.
That's still good.
That's so good. What? That's great.
We'll see.
You gotta do what works for you. I mean, honestly, I think that the mentality that you have to stream every single day on Twitch is something that has shifted a lot over time. And I mean, I don't do that. I think a lot of people diversify and stream in other places, and some people do every day, and that's fine too. But
Yeah.
That's fair.
That's true. Exactly. Also, yes, Rookery does have some Let's Plays as well. Did you release them? Or
no, actually, 2 more coming out. It's so tough because we had Endwalker and End of Dragons come out simultaneously. So Endwalker came out a handful of months before End of Dragons, so we are finally just almost through uploading all of that. But I usually do a video to 2 videos a week on my YouTube if we can.
And good job on the Endwalker stuff. I haven't been watching for the sake of the spoilers, but I've been seeing all of them and I'm like, ooh, they're doing good job.
Oh, thanks. You too. I love watching all your videos. You have some good playthroughs. I can't wait to see what you think about all of the stuff. Have you been recording all of your 14 playthrough?
I've been saving the 14 playthroughs on stream, so I'll do something with it maybe.
Okay.
cool. Yeah.
Story playthroughs are great.
Check them out.
I love story.
I like recording it and
Speaking of
putting it on
story-
YouTube and stream and stuff because it's just there so I
Segue.
can watch it. Yeah, segue. Okay, so we have End of Dragons, which starts with specifically, we get like a letter and we're starting off in the place and the things. I have the north and we're like, oh, hello, we got to go to this place because Goric is potentially going to meet their friend called Anka.
Or we're going back to the beginning of the story.
Oh, I mean, we have to. The last time we did this was like a year ago.
But I assume that, you'll have everybody will just go back to check the last time we talked about the story and then listen to that episode and then just...
No, they definitely will.
This is our one big sit down story time.
Yes.
Here we go.
Okay, we're doing
It
the
really
whole
is.
It's happening.
We're doing the. I
We're going
told
it.
you we're
We're
doing the
doing
whole
through,
damn
going through
thing.
it.
Is chat ready? I think
see
we need some
immediately.
energy, emote energy in the chat.
So when you say Anka, which Anka are you talking about?
The
Because in Siren's Landing, there is another Anka.
I thought you were going to take this as an opportunity to do like an Anka or an Anka.
You mean Anka.
Oh, God.
Anka.
Anka. All right, not Scholar Anka. You mean Anka. Okay, got it.
Scalaranka. Is that like a GoldenEye boss or something? Sorry, I'm ready.
Scaramanca. Yeah.
Thank you, Boots. No, I just remembered. I was like, damn, not everyone's
That
gonna
was,
get this. Hopefully, someone
Man
does.
with a golden gun, wasn't that?
Yeah, I think so. The man with the golden gun. Anyway, you've not seen the man with the golden gun?
And then he became
James
Trump's
Bond.
press secretary, I think.
I think so. Anyway,
Alright,
it was
so-
very good.
story.
One
So Anka, Jebro, weave
Oh,
this
boy.
tale. Take us through your journey and your notes.
Oh god. Okay. I'm just gonna show some of the footage in the background. If people's faces aren't in the right place, I'm very sorry. Let me just adjust this for now because I feel bad.
Oh, I know that thing.
You
that's
know
coming
that
soon.
thing?
Well, that time that we were in Lion's Arch with a giant thing.
I can't actually look at my notes without having a bit of trouble here. I just realised because I'm on both my monitors and it's showing the video for the other one, so I'm kind of in a bit of trouble here. But
okay,
anyway,
we got
I
you.
remember the party. I remember the whole thing anyway. Okay, so you go and chase Anka, or you go to meet Anka with Goric. And then you finally realise that Anka is probably not there to have a little bit of a catch up. And Anka kind of kidnaps Goric and buggers off. Then you pretty much chase them. And you are kind of on this wild ride between all the different Aetherblade airships, and you're jumping around and using like all these control action things, which was very dodgy at times and a little bit confusing. And you probably didn't get the achievement like me, and you were sad. And then all of a sudden, like Aurenes shows up. Wait, sorry.
That was like the complete opposite of my experience.
Yeah, I had a good time on that one.
Oh, you really? It bugged the hell out for me so hard.
Oh, did-
It was slightly buggy for me at the start,
Yeah.
but
It got better.
I was lucky. Mine didn't bug at all. I was like ridiculously captivated by this opening. I mean, it's one of the things that Guild Wars 2 does so well. It is never just a sit down story time game, right? You are part of the story, and the story has a driving action. And this, like, we've seen them in the past do stuff like airship battles or things like that, but this was actually one of the sequences that personally, maybe it's because of my own experience in the game at this point, I don't know, I was also very lucky to not have any bugs or any issues, right? But it was so fun. It was so intuitive. I mean, I was racing through it, and the way that they do these dynamic moments and how everything was kind of composed so you could see up and across and you could hear the dialogue being, yelled, and like, you're trying to race to try and save him. And then, like you were saying, Aurene sweeping in and around because you have a companion who's capable of flight. And it was one of those things where it was just such a right off the bat, like, here's the expansion. It's going to be heart pounding. There's going to be so much fun stuff. And this kind of like sky pirate ship jumping. It was so exciting. I loved this start. I was just like completely thrilled by it.
And not only ship jumping through the mists. These ships were traveling through the mists in order to get to what we find out to be Cantha. And so, yeah, that was pretty cool.
This was probably one of the most cinematic openings from the other expansions. Heart of Thorns was a little slow and kind of mysterious, which I also enjoyed. Path of Fire had a little bit of a moment with like the pyramids falling and then the Herald of Balthazar being there. But this one was such a way to kick off an expansion. So cinematic, so many things happening, to maybe almost a little overwhelming, but it was kind of trying to draw that energy out. So I think they did really wonderful.
Yes, and there was the reminder in the chat about, I think, one of my favorite lines in the opening when you're going through, and they did this quite a few times, even in Icebird Saga, how other people perceive Aurene versus how you do, and like the special relationship and understanding that you have with her, and the fact that, like, very few others have had such a close connection to any of the dragons to be able to understand them as like a thinking individual, right? Or some of the dragons, all the dragons as far as we know, we met at a time where that's not really, reasoning with them was not really something that the people of Tyria could do. And that line in this opening with them like yelling about her, and then Aurene says like, they think I'm your pet. It was really funny. I was like, this is so good. Her self-awareness, it was just fun.
She was right for that. I enjoyed that. I was like, ooh, Aurene has character. Yay. I was like, finally.
People did mention in the beginning that, yes, we did speak about Aurene was there. I'm not just skipping over every single part, but to get this in one podcast, I'm going to have to skip some bits here and there. So if I do miss some bits of the story and we don't talk about it, it's not because I don't want to, it's because there are some bits we're just going to have to. And like you were talking to Aurene, I think Aurene mentioned parts about saying they couldn't see you past a certain point in time because, there was things blocking, future things, magic, etc., etc. So there was no warning about what was kind of going to happen. Scion and Champion. So
then Aurene gets sucked.
Yeah.
Wait, what?
Yes. Aurene gets the
Thank
suck.
you so much. So I'll deliver it a little bit better. I hope no one in the arena there devs are watching those in the morning.
What do you
just
mean?
like
That was a very
It was definitely what happened.
I mean,
It is what happened, and
it
also
kind of
we have
is.
said far worse than that on this podcast. I want
That's
to be clear
true.
about
That's
that.
true. Okay, so you get after you've done the jumping puzzle bit, and this is it. This is where, they use their weapon, the Aetherblades use their weapon on Aurene, and they try to steal their magic, basically. Aurene goes crashing into the sea, to somewhere, maybe through the mists to Cantha. And so do we. And we can't drive an airship, is another thing we found out. We're not very good at that. That's not something we can do. And unfortunately, we also crash into Cantha, which is, thank God, because, it could have been anywhere. But so what about that bit? How did you feel about Aurene getting kind of attacked, crashing, and then finding out we're kind of in Cantha and in jail? Or actually, more importantly, being woken up by Rama on the beach?
I think it was a It was excuse me, it's very hot and humid. It's kind of a necessity for the story because Aurenes is such a powerful character. For her to navigate and exist within the story at full power at all times could present some problems. So I think it was smart to take away her magic in the beginning so that we kind of go on this journey of recovering it, and through that, which we'll get to, we start to learn more about the magic and more about the dragons itself. So it was a good point of conflict and a good obstacle that we have to overcome.
Yeah.
But at first I was like, is she dead? I was like, did they kill her again? Wow.
Yeah, it was pretty necessary, you're right, to have her depowered so that we didn't have just like the switch we could flip every time something bad happens to come save us through a lot of the story. I have a question though. What happened to the energy that got sucked?
It was stored inside the siphon thing.
Right, and then what
Stored
was
inside the weapon itself.
Okay, yeah, to destroy things with it.
Yes.
Yeah, and they like compile a bunch of energy and.
Oh, and then she used it in the right. Okay, we're gonna get to that point.
Yes, we'll get there. But yeah, I agree. I think this was a necessity, and previously, way back 100,000 years ago, when we first talked about this on the podcast, I had mentioned too that I really liked this so long ago that none of us can remember. I had mentioned that I really liked.
Maps. But
In this sequence that they as you crash and then you wake up, you see yourself like dragging yourself up, and Rama finding you in those perspectives. And I always love it, especially in MMOs or in games, when they let you see your character, like in, your armor, your look, your face, because it is something that's a little bit difficult in MMOs, and most MMOs are not voiced. Like the main protagonists aren't voiced, or they're very limited voicing, and in Guild Wars 2, it's a totally different situation. So it feels much more accessible to have those moments with the commander. And I love that they put this tech in where you can actually see yourself and then you wake up. And it, in a sense, felt very much as well to me kind of like an Elder Scrolls game, because so often in those games, you're starting out in a place of disempowerment, like in a prison, or, like crossing the border as a prisoner. And I had this great sense, this nostalgic sense of like, here's a new journey. We are in a land where our reputation may precede us in some ways, but in which many of these people will not, either know the full scope of it, or like we're in a land that's not our own, And so for us to be tossed into a jail, just like whoever, I love that. Like, I think it's a really fun way to kind of start out and give you this sense that like, yes, we are in a different place, in a place that's been removed for so long, and we're about to take our own different adventure here that's kind of secluded away, but obviously connects to everything else too.
And then we're stuck in a cell with Goric. And I think Goric's character really shines when you're forced to listen to him.
Yes.
No matter if you want to or not, you're like, okay.
Yeah.
Yes, like a good one like this in this story.
But it was really fun, actually. I the first time I played through the cell thing, I didn't realize that you could break out, and so I was like, "Hey, Goric, yes, okay, that's enough. Do I have to slap you or something? Let's go. Do I have to?"
And then you start looking around because you're actively like, okay, so it's been going on for way too long. I must have to do something. Yeah. And then you realize like, oh, you don't actually have to. But it's just that natural instinct where you're like, I've had enough. We need to start looking for a way out. And then like going and working through the achievements, you can start to realize how to break out of there early.
This is so clever though, because Guild Wars 2, again, in its story, does something different than a lot of other games, which is that, I mean, the core game itself technically has different paths, even if they culminate in the same place, right? You have these different origins, you have different playable things, different quests you might even select to pursue or not. And there's always this question in MMOs, how do we give a sense of player agency, or even a sense of replayability in a game where we have all this content, even though we know the story itself has to largely be linear because of just how all of this works, right? Like, you can't have a fully fledged, at least yet, multi-choice RPG where everybody's being able to make these wildly divergent choices and have this wildly different experience. But But Guild Wars 2 still gives us agency in moments. And this is so fun because I had the same journey. I was like trying to get out and I thought, oh, maybe there is some way that I can find, but like maybe it will, I don't know, it won't let me proceed until I figure out what it's supposed to be. So I'm like clicking stuff. And then I got distracted because Goric was just going. And it's so funny because like the foil is perfection. You have this babbling little Asura who's just sharing every single thought in his mind, and it's very accurate to his character and other traits we know about him. And he's spiraling in this like, but then I'll have to become, I guess I'm gonna have to adjust to life in prison and blah, blah, blah. And it was so good, and I got so distracted I just stood there listening to him, and then finally we were released. And it was only later that I also found out about all the iterations and different ways that you can get out or what you can do to interact. And I think that's such a delightful little reason to even make you want to go back to that moment. Both the writing, delivery, and the actual mechanics are fun and give you a sense of, I mean, choosing your own adventure, even though it's going to lead you to the same place.
Yeah, so I think there's like 3 options as to what happens when Rama gets there. There's, you've gotten out way too early, and Rama's just like, oh, you've gotten out too early. And then there's, well, he doesn't say that.
Is that what he says?
Obviously, I forget exactly what he says, but I think my favorite is the middle one.
You got out too
like,
early.
where you're opening the door as he's approaching, and he's like,
Okay.
oh, well, this is awkward.
I don't know if I did that. Yeah. Need to go back.
Yeah.
But then,
Yeah, but speaking of Rama, this is where we first meet Rama.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Big drop. off
The
beach
first
and-
time he tells you his name. That's another thing I loved about it is he's the big-hatted man until he tells you what his name is, and then his nameplate changes to Rama. Yeah.
Yes, it's so good. It's so good. And as chat has already preemptively said, as you step out and you get these like first dialogue bits there that reveal the pan across that gorgeous harbor, the welcome to Cantha, it's oh my gosh, I teared up. I was so like, it just hit so powerfully, whether or not you played Guild Wars 1. Such an incredible way to lay an expansion in front of you, to have that cinematic title screen. So good.
I want them to retroactively go back and implement that into Heart of Thorns and Path of Fire.
Yeah,
It was
that'd be great.
it was so unexpected that when it happened, I think I remember I was just like, and you
I
get
got
this
the
sense of
same
chill, like
feeling.
it's finally starting, like
Yes.
the thing that we've been
You-
waiting for. You're
did.
like,
You were.
I think I only got that feeling before. The first time I got that feeling was with the core game, with the original loading screen, with the original sign-in screen. With the
Yes, with the
Yeah, that was
And
cool.
then I think this is the first time I had that feeling since for an opening sequence there. Yeah.
It also felt in the moment like such an assertion of confidence, if that makes sense, right?
Yeah.
In a way to say like, here it is, here is the expansion. And I think I knew in that moment, like there are moments in, especially MMOs, where we play so closely, and we may even come to know some of the dev team, or we might, at least know their personalities or people behind the game. And every now and then there are these moments where either they directly kind of break the fourth wall, or you get a more kind of sidelong kind of thing. And in this moment, that's how I felt. It felt very much like, we are proud of this. It was worth the wait. We are ready for a new era. This is End of Dragons. This is the finale of 10 years of story and, the dawn of a new day in many ways in this game. And I loved that. You could feel it.
It was very cool. Well, the thing that I found funny, which is now being paused on the screen right now, you'll find out.
Is that particular
It's just
bird?
As a
just before the emotional and very, very impactful scene happens, Kroof is just absolutely losing their shit over the Kestrel, and I'm just like, yes. Like, that's one of the things I think I remember doing. But you zoomed in and everything. Like, you did a specific edit there.
I had to highlight it.
couldn't
I
stop
remember, I was like going
laughing.
back, I was like, it's such a great moment, but I was like, Fluffy Tengu. I was like, and then it was so great.
It happens so much during your playthrough as well. There's a Kestrel and it's just like story, really heavy, and then random Tengu.
I'm like, Tengu!
There's the repair guy.
Sorry.
Oh my god, he's amazing. Well, no, that was good. 'cause
I mean,
that
no,
were the
I mean,
moments
I
remember
think
as
I think all of us did, because I did the exact same. I get completely sidetracked by the Tengu nonstop.
So
I could not
good.
get over this guy's tiny hat. I just love
I
it
kind of
so
want to go
much.
back, and I have not rewatched my playthrough, but
should. It's
playing
funny.
End of Dragons now, it's become normalized seeing so many variations of Tengu. But I remember it was such a statement, and it was such a big thing that we were getting new variations of Tengu. And I was like, back in the good old days of that fresh excitement for new things.
Yeah, I mean, you're not gonna beat that initialness, but you can still appreciate a different way. And when you rewatch things, you just notice extra little things, because you're not just always like, oh yeah, there's a thing there. Like, it's yeah, I get it. But this was very awesome, and this is like very, very early still, and I'm very aware of that.
My issue with this particular scene, though, is that I could see over the railing to the island, the Xingjie Island, Setang Province. I wanted to look at everything, take everything in, just at the beauty of the island, but people kept on talking. And it was important things that they were saying, and I couldn't pay attention because I had to see everything. And anyway, there you go.
Yeah, that's
I'm so sorry, Boots.
Yeah, it's stunning. I mean, the set pieces,
so genuine there, group. You felt you had to say something. That's okay.
what? I thought what you said was totally accurate.
No. It was the way Cruz said it. It was just funny. It doesn't.
Oh. No, I mean, Boots, I agree with you. I was so captivated. It took me a second to even realize that the dialogue had continued on and that I was not paying attention to it. But the set pieces in End of Dragons are beyond stunning. Some of the most gorgeous zones and maps I've ever seen in MMO. And I mean, this is not uncommon to Guild Wars 2, but when you really look at almost any other game, and then you wander around the map and you look at how big it is and the different kinds of little areas and vignettes and moments and spots, and then you look at something like a single map in End of Dragons and the sheer spectrum of these maps, like the verticality, all of the stuff, all of the things, every piece of detail, there's just so much. It's actually mind-blowing. And with the Tengu as well, I mean, that additional, the additional Tengu models, I mean, yes, chat, I'm with you. I would still love to see Tengu be added as a playable race. Of course, I'm not going to hold it against ArenaNet if they never do this, but the design of these bird people are so good. They are so unique. And I think there's a reason we were all delighted by them, because I have not seen any race like this in pretty much any other MMO that I play. There might be I guess some kind of little bird creature or something, right? But I've never seen an avian race that has this many diverse types of birds represented. And I love their models. They're so good.
Remind me of the Khajiit or something. The Khajiit are kind of like that in here. So you've got the different Khajiit. So you've got the smaller cat style, then you've got the giant Khajiit, and then you've got the kind of humanoid Khajiit. No, that's true. I mean, one is.
One of the variations is playable.
One is. But you didn't find out about them until, elsewhere, which is later. But yeah, nothing. But we won't talk about playable races. We'll get there one day. We'll have a podcast with that.
About Skyrim.
But another great aspect of this beginning instance is the first introduction to kind of a sneaky, slithery, shady character, Minister Lee.
Yeah, my notes say bit of a wanker. Just in
That's
case.
also a very good way of putting it. Very blunt.
I was right. You should definitely write. I might even put the show notes in the description because I'm reading them back and I'm like, wow, I can't spell Goric clearly.
Rough times. Certain names are sometimes a bit difficult, but I think this introduction, I mean, at first you kind of get a sense of at least I didn't know how to feel about Minister Lee. I was like, okay, yeah, you would be perhaps a little, if you're in that position of like maintaining the order and the safety of everyone, you'd be a little concerned about anyone coming in. You'd be like, okay, what's this? What's going on? But then there's also other sides of him where you're like, oh, you're clearly kind of like that antagonistic character, especially when juxtaposed with Rama. And I was like, are they father and son or something? I started to like really question. I was like, what's their dynamic? It seems that there's more to it. But I think it was smart to just like at least introduce him at this beginning without being like obvious big bad.
Wasn't it like kind of, there's different ways you could go with that, because the baddie could, the bad, or the, you know, the authoritarian character, like detective, police chief or whatever, can be really hard, and then they can soften over the course of the story, or they could just be an asshole. Like, you know, and they're literally just awful. And then you can have all these different things.
It's a slow play into it. Like at first you're just like, okay, no, he's doing his job properly, but maybe he's a little xenophobic. And then no, as you go further, you're like, oh no, he's quite racist. Okay.
Yes. It was interesting though, because Minister Lee was one of those characters where I think with the second replay, I really appreciate the subtlety that they put in there, because I read it initially as just everybody in Cantha has had their borders closed for a really long time, and we know they have this history of the Ministry of Purity and all this kind of stuff, and so people probably are very opposed to outsiders and change and or this conflict making it to their shores. So I didn't really pick up on that, and then later as things develop with Lee, I went, oh yeah, I guess, yeah. Oh, I wish we'd had a little bit more to kind of like support and flesh out that arc, or like have more of a reveal leading up into, like, if you're going around with Rama and you're detecting and you're
like
putting pieces together and like.
It's a good point, because even in that part where you're going at the elevator, you're like not entirely sure he's really that bad of a guy yet. Mm-hmm. And so it's like,
I like that though. We'll get there.
I mean,
we'll
it's interesting because in many ways, right, there is a discussion here as well about the fact that, like, I mean, let's just be real, fantasy racism and racism, they both are real things. Like, fantasy racism is its own thing, but it's a reflection of a real world issue, right? And that this idea that not everybody who is, you know, deeply prejudiced and or racist or xenophobic, you know, is obviously or overtly a terrible human being is a good statement and something good to examine. You know, so I like now going back and seeing some of these little tip-offs in his character that we don't really notice the first time you go through. I still think, yes, I'd like to have seen like a little bit more of a discovery with him, but I think there is a lot of stuff in there that I even missed the first time.
So some of the tip-offs that I found that kind of led me towards it before the elevator scene was actually not in dialogue you necessarily pick up from the main characters, but in the news reporting little things around the world, like those little things. So as I was going around, at least one time, one of the news articles was something along the lines of the ministry is like cracking down on this and that, and it was like, essentially, you know, casting people who aren't bad people into a bad light, and like, you know, basically against Antifa, I guess is the thing. So yeah, it was very fascist behavior of the ministry at that point, and it was like, oh, I see what's happening here. Yeah.
That was also a great tool for the narrative that they introduced. Like, while you're playing, you're also getting lore from what is currently going on in the story. But yeah, that was just like a side thing that they did, but I actually really appreciated that.
And the audio boxes were really important. Like the Anka stuff, the Aetherblade stuff was really important. Okay, I'm going to shift it on a little bit because we're going to get stuck.
Yes.
Okay, so we've met Lee, etc., etc., and then what we do is, this is the next major bit really, we end up going to see Aurene in the Crystal Cave, and I'm not going to say what I wrote there. Aurene is in a bit of trouble. In my notes. I'm just like, it is true.
Got a little bit spicy in describing how messed up Aurene got.
I was tired. And yeah, so we get in our first skiff ride as well. First of all, we get taken there in our first skiff. And we have to go and see Aurene. And as we're talking about to Aurene, we're introduced to fishing as well. at the same time, and we have to feed Aurene a fish because you're establishing something you did a long time ago, which is kind of feeding and looking after Aurene, right? Which was a very cool. I felt that was, something we could talk about. How was that? How did that feel in the fishing introduction there? That was pretty cool. All the stuff.
It was fine. It just introduced the system of fishing.
When you were playing this, you were excited. You were like, you loved the fishing. You were like, wow, you filmed the whole thing. That's the only bit I skipped because you were like there doing it for so long. I was like,
when I did it first, I was excited. I was like, my first time fishing. But like, in hindsight, it was just like introducing the mechanic, go grab a fish for Aurene, go feed our little baby.
Oh my gosh,
with Jebro, it was the most amazing part of the story.
For Boots, it was eye-opening.
I was gonna say, for Boots, it like changed your entire leveling experience.
Yeah, I can never go back to leveling normal.
I mean, I think Boots likes it for a slightly different way, which is just the fishing. I loved it for the Aurene connotations because, like, I literally went back not too long after that because I sort of did this in reverse order. I did my return to living season achievements after finishing End of Dragons.
Oh, yeah.
So I had done End of Dragons and then I went back and in like part of the stuff that you revisit, you go back to some of these story beats where you literally, when she is a hatchling, you go down to the water and you fish with her and you take her around. And I found that so deeply. I just found it so moving that you bring her this fish and her little dialogue lines there about, like, well, I'm grown up, you don't have to bring me fish. And you're just like, I'm going to always bring you fish forever, for all time, until the day I die. To me, I mean, it felt so, I don't know, familial in a sense, however you want to interpret that connection. But the idea that, like, when you love someone, you do these things for them. And it's, again, kind of rare that I think in a game we see this kind of just like nuanced attention to character details. Like, it's easy, I think, in a fantasy game to sit down with a character and to be like, we're about to face the end. Ah, yes, comrade, we are. It's been amazing traveling with you and fighting by your side. And you're like, indeed, so wonderful, the fantasy adventures we've had. And you're like, we will never give up until the end, right? Like, that is the basic formula of just an epic fantasy. But there are these beautiful nuanced interactions that we have in our own lives when we care for someone. And what do you do when you care for them? You share your life with them, you bring them food, you eat with them, you talk with them, you are a listening ear, you go through hard times and good times together. And not everything has to be an epic fantasy moment. Like, here we are at the end. You can have these incredibly meaningful moments where it's just like, literally you raised her from a hatchling, but also this sense that even though she's the most powerful entity, I mean, it's arguably almost, although there's others that are very powerful at this point, you still care for her and you would still do these things for her, not because like she's incapable of doing it herself, but because you're offering her a token of the bond and love and the care you've shared. And I got so emotional. I thought that was such a sweet touch. It was so sweet.
And I gotta say, I love that it came from the commander, because at the end of the day, the player character might be various different races, but the commander is still a character within the story. And we don't oftentimes get emotional hits. They are scattered throughout when they are important, but even this small little moment, which might be just seen as like a side instance for the story, it was nice to be reminded that the commander is its own character. And that fish could have come from Kaith, someone who's more about like the story or what. But Kaith can. We can teach Kaith how to fish because Kaith is all. She's talented. I think Kaith can learn. But I enjoy that it was from the commander's perspective.
Cool. Okay. Was there anything else then that Aurene kind of told? Because Aurene was telling us how they were depleted, how they were kind of in trouble, and I can't remember if there was any major.
I think this might have been the instance where it might have been the next one. When the Jade starts coming into play. But I wonder if this is where she kind of at least hints at like hearing voices or a voice. Yeah, but we don't really get into that.
No, we don't
fully.
We don't have the going into the mind of people things yet. But we do go and see the Empress.
Yes, Empress in.
This is You during this bit was gold. You were just like,
What did I
there was
do?
some drama in this. You were like talking to Lee. Lee was being a dick, and you were like, "Stop talking, Lee," and all this kind of
I was like,
stuff.
shut
and
up,
you're
Lee.
It was very, very good. But yeah, so there's a lot going on here that I think Lee and Joon are kind of having a little tete-a-tete. They're kind of, disagree, because Joon is very much about inviting the world in, and Lee is very much about putting the wall up. So there's these two very contrasting ways. There's no in between. There's no in between at all. And it feels like the Empress is like this person who is trying to listen to all sides, but also very maybe cautious, but is kind of up for a little bit of, making steadily, just like bringing in the outside world kind of steadily, and that was okay. So it was like that kind of pushing. Sorry, go on.
Yeah. And this is also where you could glean, if you read into it, that that what's her name?
June?
Joon. That Joon was working with the Aetherblades at some point.
A little bit, yeah.
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah.
And
I didn't get that.
Continues to
but that's
grow.
cool.
The narrative of those two positions of like having an open invitation and being very strict continue to grow as the story continues. But it is interesting because it actually also ends up biting Joon in the butt a little bit as well. So the story is very elaborate and detailed when you start to look at it. It's like very small aspects of like the issue of the Aetherblades and having that open approach also created a little bit of conflict, and then needing to get other people in there as well to come and correct it.
Yeah, you definitely get a sense from some of this scene of the still like ongoing conflicts in Cantha, right? The mindsets of the past and eye to the future, technology, the Empress sort of in the middle of it. You get a little bit of a sense as well of the connection between the Empress and Joon, which of course we do learn that they are half-sisters as we continue through the story. So, I mean, a lot of this I think is really it's just well set up. It's just basically exposition in this scene, but it does give us a bit of a sense of the tension and the undercurrents that are kind of going through the court right now, and things that we'll later sort of expand on.
Now, something I commented on when I first played through this was Navan standing so close to the Empress when everybody else has to stay very far away. I was like, ooh, that person must be very, very powerful. And I wasn't able to make the connection to what the reveal is later on, but apparently in my chat, somebody had figured it out on their first playthrough at this moment. So that was impressive.
Yeah, how I don't know. There's no indication at all. There's just none.
There really isn't,
name,
but
though.
the name slightly, but it's missing certain letters.
Right.
I'm just like, how would you have known? I mean, like maybe. I mean, like, as a guess, like as a wild guess. I don't know.
What name? Who? What?
Navan. And
Oh, yeah.
The KUUNAVANG things.
yeah.
We can talk about this now. Oh, by the way,
This is
if
a
you don't know
spoiler.
what we're talking about, the entire podcast is a spoiler. Like, it's going to be in the title. It's in the title on the stream. Do not watch this podcast if we are currently playing in End of Dragons and you don't
Or are
want
a
to
new
know
player.
stuff. Or a
Yeah,
new
I don't
player.
know how. Oh,
I don't know
sorry. Go
about
ahead.
you all, but Navan, like I said, I thought was a very powerful person because of how close she was to the Empress and how much she trusted him.
Yeah.
But more importantly, throughout the story, at different beats on the story, I thought Navan was I thought Navan
Mother?
was coming on to me a little bit, and was interested in my character.
There
And
are
then
moments
when
of
the reveal
flirtatiousness with different characters in the game, and
We went out for sushi together. We had a boat. We had a boat thing going on. And
if you are the human character, it's a very different to if you're the Asura. There is a very different chemistry that kind of
was there?
occurs
Okay.
with different characters.
Really?
Absolutely. Because I played this as Asura. When I watched you playing this, Kroof, there was definitely a difference in the way they spoke to people, which people could have interpreted in a and especially if you're a man or if you're a woman, like however you identify would be interpreted in different ways. Like when I was watching it, there was a part of me later on where I was like, that seemed a little bit flirtatious, like your character and their character seemed a little tiny bit. But then when I was the Sura, I was like, that was I didn't get that at all. Like I just didn't get that at all. Maybe with Rama when you were doing some of the stuff there. Yeah, maybe, but it was still good. It was good. There was nothing
I don't think the
about
dialogue was different. It might have just been like, because each
it was a bit,
each actor.
It was.
Oh.
I think so, yeah. Because I remember,
And then
I was
when the
like, I
reveal
don't remember
happened-
this feeling at all. Like when I played as Asura.
And then when the reveal happened, my character basically was like, "I'm okay with this." I was still.
I mean,
was
like,
interesting.
you all
Remember-
know me. I'm into it. I mean, yeah, girl, let's do it. Let's go. I'll be
my character
forever.
got jealous after at the end, the Dragon's End, where you get to go talk to the.
We're getting way far out there.
Okay, all right.
We're getting way far out there.
Well, I just wanted to say that, yeah, I mean, I did not get a sense that she was KUUNAVANG at this point. I guess you could say like Navan, KUUNAVANG, like you could say, that. And I'm sure some
Someone
people
will.
maybe just were keeping an eye out, right? If anything, I just got a sense that there was something. She seemed to know more than she let on. She seemed to be more than just a handmaid. She seemed like either she was operating as a voice for the Empress, where the Empress couldn't be publicly seen doing stuff, or she herself had some sort of greater stake, or was, again, more than she appeared. I did get that sense over the course of the story. But yeah, it took me a little bit to get to the point. I think I did say in the playthrough ahead of time, like, oh, what if the dragons could turn into people? That'd be wild. And then when KUUNAVANG was like revealed, I was like, ah.
Oh, that's cool. That's
Yeah, I
actually
thought
pretty
she
cool.
was just gonna be like a spy for the Empress and like getting all the information on her enemies and stuff. Which KUUNAVANG could still maybe do that. I don't know, but
Okay, I'm gonna push us forward. There was that
Yes.
cut scene between Lee and Joon, and you kind of enter in, which felt a bit awkward. And they're kind of still arguing about the same thing they were arguing about right in front of the Empress. And then there's kind of like Joon. You speak to Joon, and the basic gist is that she wants to help you. To juice up, I think, the words, the quoted that I quoted, that was my quote, I can't remember. To juice up Aurene and give them their dragon. I don't know what, I'm pretty sure that was there somewhere.
they wanted to give Aurenes a Capri Sun. They
Yeah,
said, come on, girl, you a little thirsty.
Capri Sun? Capri Sun is so good. Oh my god, I've had them for so long. I miss them.
I love the way you pronounce that. Capri Sun.
It's called Capri Sun.
It's called Capri Sun.
It's not Capri. What are you talking
is
about?
100%
How
Sun.
dare you snort at me? It's Capri Sun. Like, it's Capri Sun.
Yes.
Every
I'm not
English
enjoying
person
it,
right
it's
now and
Capri
everyone in
Sun.
Europe is
It
just
sounds
like,
so
how
fancy.
dare you?
Oh,
It's because
yes,
it
I
is.
know, yeah.
It's a lot
Just a bit
fancier.
cod.
You get your
Sun and a
straw and you
Pop-Tart.
stab it in that silver foil.
I love a Capri Sun and a Pop-Tart.
Pop tart? I don't say poop. It's not
We're
a poop
unraveling.
tart.
We're unraveling.
Not.
We're a weaver.
It's a pop tart.
We're a weaver. We're currently
It's a
unraveling.
Pop-Tart. It's
Hold
even
on.
more
Okay.
posh. Do you have it with
Okay.
peanut butter or jelly?
Okay, shh.
Americans. How dare you? This is my
Shush.
channel.
Look, if I have to be the only one here keeping us on track,
Oh my god,
the
really?
only one in the entire podcast, including the host, mostly the host, keeping
Yeah,
us
go
on
on then.
track. I will do this in this
Go on.
moment for all of us. No,
Yeah.
okay, so yeah, we gotta juice up Aurene. We gotta drink some Capri Sun.
I didn't put the Capri Sun bit in there, but I like it.
Okay.
Capri Sun is needed.
It was a beautiful
Um,
cinematic. It rose some tension between the two characters of Joon and Lee.
Yeah.
Really button heads.
it
And then
let,
Casimir.
Let Casimir kind of shine a little bit.
Yeah, Casimir's there.
I love that Casimir got to shine this expansion because she has been in just about every major beat of everything in this story. And especially now that we're getting Living Season 1 back, I think you get to see some of her origin better. We learn more about the state of where she came from and her family and things like that. But it oftentimes feels like, at least up until this point, she's kind of, I don't want to say a sidekick because she's a major character, but it oftentimes feels like she sacrifices a great deal of herself to help others succeed. And this idea that, like, you know, she helps Jory with, like, you know, her detective agency, and she herself is driven, but, you know, she tends to help others. She helps us in so many different pushes, martial combat things, you know, she does everything she can in those regards. And to see her natural skills, I think, working with people, and, you know, she is very diplomatic, not only because of, you know, the noble upbringing and things like that, but I think she has a genuinely empathetic heart, and she, you know, is wise and intelligent, but she oftentimes I think understands people in a way that we haven't always been able to see in as nuanced of a way. And so for her to step into this role more formally in the spotlight as a diplomat, right, as somebody who has been around the world and dealt with so many of these different places and you know, leaders of nations, and who now could be somebody that would be able to bridge the gap between these very different and oftentimes, you know, hostile feelings between the outside world and Cantha, I think is like, she's such a good fit for it.
Yeah.
It's just so good. I really love seeing her in that role.
It doesn't hurt that she's a human lie detector too, to be a diplomat.
I was gonna say her skill set. Her skill set of being able to detect lies, but also being a mesmer to create illusions. There could be a really interesting, like, political espionage spy story with Casimir in the future if they ever want to go do that.
I mean, there's still backstory stuff with her that she has to resolve, like whole family situation going on there. And I mean, I hope that somehow ties into the Queen Jenna situation that I want to learn more about. Maybe, Lisa?
Mesmer spies are always an interesting idea.
Okay. We go back to the office. We see Akane. First time we meet them, who I'm still confused about what they.
Akane's so good.
But they're not in it that much, though, are they? I think that's like.
She doesn't need to be. She is the voice of humanity at the moment. She's like, yeah, I'm being underpaid. I'm not even being paid. She's like, I'm doing this because I have to, because I want to, but I'm not being paid. I'm not being supported in this. I'm not being. You go do it. You rummage through all of this top secret stuff. It's not my problem.
Yeah.
She has such a strong April Ludgate vibe.
Yeah.
I just love it because I mean, again, I think the nuance of characters in End of Dragons is just spot on. Not every person that is part of, like, I don't know, a bureaucratic system or a regime or whatever, not every person is going to connect to it in the same way. Not everybody's going to be like, I'm going to do my very best work and I'm just going to. There are just people who are like, I am here. Is that not good enough?
Yeah.
Like, I really like that because it contrasts so much with many of the other, I think, I don't know, just kind of easy ways that they can lump everybody together. Like, her energy is just so funny, and it creates this great kind of back and forth between her and Rama. And I think you also, because of it, get a sense almost like Ron Swanson, April Ludgate to some degree, although, you know, Rama, I don't know if he's really a Ron, but like that kind of like, he does, yeah. That kind of like parental, or, you know, here he is working with everybody. He doesn't really think he's above everybody, but he, you know, has this kind of, I think, amicable nature to him, and that even the people that work with him or closely with him don't feel like they have to be in fear of him or they have to, you know. I think it also creates an interesting dynamic with him.
Okay.
It was perfect.
Right, moving forward. You end up trying to find. I can't remember the link here, but you end up having you're trying to find out what's going on with the Aetherblades, and you find some evidence.
So we learn,
and you end up
we learn that the Aetherblades were, holy shit, guys, this is important. We learned that the Aetherblades were using the fractals, going back in time slices in the fractals, and stealing stuff from fractals,
which is no different than what we do.
I mean, yeah, technically.
Well, they needed after, you know, everything that happened with Scarlet, they're a bit wrecked, so they needed to find equipment, and they farmed fractals to do that. So they found ways to go into the mist, go out, get all the fractal stuff, come back out, do all the stuff and the things. But that wasn't
we
just.
We could take more out of the fractals than we do as players. There's some interesting places we go to, like you know,
True.
A certain technology we could take before the thing explodes.
Yeah. Could you just like have 5 mesmers create like a giant portal and just teleport it to Corteria? Like, why hasn't anyone done that?
Yeah.
Future stories. There you go.
It was interesting that they tied in fractals.
I was literally just about to say, yeah, I liked that they did that. Yeah.
The mists are featured in, you know, different places. I mean, POF You know, there's they've factored in these things. For different side. The mist is a core part of the game. We're fighting in the mists. The mist is actually like 2/3 of the game almost, to be fair. I mean, if you think about like the modes and stuff, I guess. Important.
And we did know from the end, although again it'll be playable soon, right? And I'm sure they're going to probably emphasize this point. We know from the end of season 1 that although Trin was imprisoned and then later broke out and then was like rescued by her crew, and then they fled into the mist. So this was them directly tying in and calling back to that lore, that they had fled to that location because, you know, like where's one place that people can't track you, can't find you necessarily, like why not use that as an avenue of escape, although it was a huge risk.
But then like the actual tax that brings to a person, like going through the fractal so many times, fighting yourselves so many times, and like we start to see kind of the deterioration in particularly Anka, and how like the course of the journey within the Aetherblade society starts to kind of crack. And, you know, Trin, people aren't really vibing with her. Anka might be getting some popularity and starts to change as a character. So this is where we really begin to see, like, Anka form as kind of more of a villain.
And truly, Vlad's the only one holding everyone together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Actually, there is another character in Kruth's story, specifically in the first hour. Smudgem is featured in different points.
I love, shout out to Smudgem. Shout out to Smudgem. One of my mods, great friend from my channel, from my area, and I just always would run into them, and I was like, oh my god, Smudgem!
And you left it in, and I was like, but you were right. But like, there was a very big concentration on making sure guildmates and friends and stuff were in your map. They spawned into your instance of the map as well, which is pretty cool. Because I remember doing that. I remember seeing guildies and people just being like, "Oh, there's Figgy over there. I ain't seen you in ages." What's up? And you just be like hanging out. Yeah, it was cool. I liked that.
It's fun seeing everybody. Anka was such an interesting villain. I feel like I still. Oh, it's so tough. I feel like I still. I wish we'd had more time with her in a sense. I would love that. You know, it's just like, I can't help but wonder at all with this Living Season 1 reintroduction, if they're going to have her appear in the Aether. Well, she came in later, right? Canonically, I think I'm trying to remember exactly how it all fits together, but...
They retroactively put Anka in the Thumb Nova Reactor fractal.
Yeah.
But I'm pretty sure she would have had to have been in the Aetherblades, but like before they escaped, because I think in season 1, like they just went. So Anka had to be there at some point. So maybe next episode we can see. That's the only time I think that they could implement Anka.
Yeah, I would love to see it because I do think that as we're moving through, the stuff that happens with Trin is so fantastic. And I don't necessarily think that Trin herself, like, I love what they did with her. So I am glad that they didn't necessarily turn her into the Anka of this story. But it does feel like a stronger thematic choice because she was a previous villain. And then we see how this twisted her and then all this other stuff. It feels like that would have more cohesively hung together rather than being like, oh, and there was this character who now has taken over and had all these other things. But like, all of that to be said, I love the idea. I think Anka is so fascinating. This idea of somebody who did confront herself, who had this scientific mind, and then watched over and over and over again as herself and her other selves died, and as she killed them. And there's this brutal, like, this idea of this like nihilism, or nothing matters, or life doesn't matter, or why not just unravel, because like literally, you know, who even cares? I've killed myself 1,000 times. And when you think about that, like what that would do to you is, I think, very fascinating in relation to the Void as we keep going ahead. It's just tough because, yeah, I mean, we didn't really know her until this expansion.
I want to have.
We're just waiting for Jebro to finish chewing.
Yeah.
I'm waiting for people to talk, and for once, people didn't.
I'd like to have a new fractal come out that's you're doing a fractal while the Aetherblades are raiding that fractal.
Oh, that would be fun.
Yeah.
I think there was like, I think a developer posted like maybe scrapped content for a fractal or something, and actually featured the Aetherblades. I think in season 4 actually.
The Aetherblades did quite a lot of stuff.
That would be a fun fractal to like be like just doing a fractal, and then the Aetherblade show up, and we're just like,
Oh yeah,
hi.
from the because because time doesn't matter there, right? Isn't it?
Yeah.
You just go to the place and they could be there getting their equipment. Yeah, that's actually
That would actually be
new
Fractal instability.
yeah,
Anka appears.
that'd be fun.
That is a good idea. They should do that. Absolutely should do that. That would be very cool. Nice one, Boots.
Just have another
Impressive.
fractal story. Yeah.
Very good. You get a little tick mark next to your name.
Thank you.
This time.
I'm right there.
Yeah, don't worry.
Class participation check
Collecting
mark.
them.
Yeah, you get
This
that
is
little
my
sticker
fourth
with the
check
animal
mark.
on it. Which animal sticker do you want?
Let's
Did you not
see.
get those? We used to get those.
Manatee. I would like a
Manatee was one, actually. You used to get little raccoons and cute, like fish and stuff.
Axolotl.
With lions.
Or a quokwa.
Raccoon? Would you like a raccoon?
Raccoons are cool.
That's cute.
I once saw a tanuki.
Cool.
It's like a raccoon.
Perfect.
So,
Not the
after
cool.
questioning the
There's
char
an
guy,
albino.
we're moving back to Aurenes
man.
cave.
It's like someone's like, I just got married. Cool.
We're 1/10 through the story.
We
Really?
are?
Yeah.
I'm trying. I'm really trying.
Jebro, take us to the next big
trying.
plot points.
We're in Aurenes cave. June
This is actually
helping.
huge.
It is. It is. We are. So in the first, I couldn't remember what to call it. It's not the dream, but we go into. I think we're going into
It's
Soo-Won's
called the
mind.
Mind Palace.
Yeah, that's it.
Is it?
Mind Palace is a
Yeah.
thing. That is an actual thing.
From the developers, I think in lore it's called the Mind Palace.
Is it like? Oh, I'm trying to remember if later on Soo-Won says this or not. That it's kind of like Soo-Won's domain.
You don't
Or, like,
know. It's her mind. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think every elder dragon can tap into that because we kind of did it even with Mordremoth.
We did.
when we went
And-
into like his
Aurene
mind.
hasn't done this before with you.
Not before, but she does in this expansion
Yeah.
at the end. Yeah.
But you don't know Soo-Won is Soo-Won at the moment. Like, it just says unknown.
Yeah.
And you're in there and it's like, ooh, who is this? And yeah, comments. What was this like?
Cool.
Once again, kind of essential for the story, because like we've been building up to this idea of the water dragon and a lot of speculation about the water dragon being in Cantha, and then at the end of season 4 we had Kralkatorrik say mother, and we're like, okay, so now there's like a familial sense with the elder dragons. What's going on here? Y'all siblings? What's happening? Why do you hate each other? We need to have some familial family therapy. But we've gotten to this part of the story, and it was pretty early on, and half of me feels like, oh, we should have had maybe like a bigger announcement because it was just narration. We just found out the information from narration. We didn't even see the water dragon yet. But it's kind of important just to, it's in an expansion and it's called End of Dragons, so you gotta keep it pushing.
Yeah, so it's interesting. Okay, so it's obviously a large amount of exposition, but they do it in a fun way. And it gives us a small taste of meeting Soo-Won at least once. So that's I think we talked about this, that one of the major gripes I had at least with the entire storyline is, even though in the end I felt
It doesn't even matter. Sorry.
I felt oh my god. Even though in the end, in the final scenes, we're talking to Soo-Won before dissipation. You feel it. You feel the sadness. And I think I said I was most sad with a lot of Aurene's lines because I felt a connection to her. Like, I don't want to be alone. And I think the reason that is because we didn't get to see Soo-Won enough times. Like this is our we see Soo-Won maybe 3 times throughout the whole story, and so it's hard to build a connection in 3 short instances.
I agree.
I love it. Oh, it's so tough because I agree with you. I also think in this moment, I like that they did not reveal her here, because there is that sense of, where are we? What's happening? You're kind of wandering through. You're assuming it has to be some kind of magical connection. Things are still shrouded. The bubbles, that water feeling, again, a cheeky little nod to the fact that Bubbles is what the community called her for a very long time, or Steve. So I mean, you can pretty much tell, who it is. You do. And there is this suspense. And I think there is also a beautiful, horrible sadness when later on, when you actually do see her, you see her in the state that she's in, you know, that she, to save the world, has imprisoned herself, that you see, my God, her model is so gorgeous. The scale details, her, oh my gosh, just stunning. And in that moment to know, you think like when everything's crashing down, like the first time we actually see her, the first time we see her face to face, she's been this massive presence in the world, and we are about to lose her. And there's something that I think is so tragic and so beautiful about that, that echoes Aurene's journey. So I actually really love that. But I will say that I agree with all of you, and I think that even, gosh, I really wish they had put that bonus dialogue where she's talking about the babies. If they had put that in either as a cutscene after you finish, like when you finish your version of the end meta, or even beforehand, like you encounter her somewhere in the map, and in a moment of lucidity, she, you know, converses with you and Aurene really frankly, and you hear about the other dragons as hatchlings. Because what devastates me is that if you don't do the open world stuff, players will, I think, feel a very strong, massive gap in that. And while the open world is like a big part of this story, I agree with you that in the actual cutscenes themselves, I would have loved to see just a couple more interactions, have that dialogue. Soo-Won, I think, is impeccably voiced. She is so beautifully done and so beautifully written. And oh my gosh, her lines during the meta and everything, the delivery is just phenomenal.
Even in the trailers leading up, the voice lines were perfect.
Yes. Yes, I love it. I love it. And so like, while I think that the pacing of this reveal here at the start was good, I agree that particularly in the second half, I would have liked to seen just a little more with that connection with her and what she could reveal to us. And those little bonus cutscenes after each time you clear the meta. In case anybody doesn't know what those are, you can go find her down in the Cradle of the World once you clear the meta. And she has like 5 different dialogues or something, I think.
Yes.
Ish.
5 or 6.
Extra stuff, yeah.
And it's so good, but it's so good that it should have been in this, like in the cutscenes of the story, you know, like in the actual story instances.
It's difficult. There's a lot that goes on. I think you can. I think yeah. I mean, I didn't mind it so much. I think for pacing, I think if you'd added all of this stuff, it would have been, because it was quite a long story, but it didn't feel long when I played it. But there were points where I was like, if there was a bit more, I think maybe I may have drifted a little bit, but like I don't know. I think it was okay.
The expansion
I like the
title
bonus
of
bits.
End of Dragons, I want to get all of the information of the dragons that I can, because this is their capstone on the story. So I think even if it was like 5 or 6 chapters longer, where we got more from Soo-Won and spent more time with that character, and even Anka, I think that would have just fleshed out the arc of the story a little bit better in terms of the conflict and who we're fighting for.
I agreed. It's tough though, because that one instance that we're going to get to eventually, I think, of going to the power plant is probably the best instance in the game.
It's solid.
It is so good.
And I think that unfortunately they wanted to, like, because you can't reveal Soo-Won until that instance to make that instance impactful. And
Wait, what do you mean reveal Soo-Won? Because you already know who you're talking to in the dream, like, because Soo-Won's already said. You haven't seen her, but you know she's there because she's introduced herself.
Talk to her through whispers or whatever. I mean,
But they know.
So do you think that you could have had a lot more Mind Palace instances before that in order to reveal?
She explains,
more
like in that instance, the mind instance we just saw. She pretty much explains that she has to die. Like, you know, a lot of stuff. You get a lot of stuff from that. Like, you basically know that she wants Aurene to be the main person. Like, she will be the main dragon. She'll be the, you know, everything else. And like that one instance is like a lot of stuff. There's a lot we glean from, like, not even glean, we are told and informed about.
Would it have felt better if, like, in her mind palace, because Mordramoth, we kind of saw the shadow of Mordramoth, we saw its model in its mind and its quote unquote mind palace. What if we saw, like, Soo-Won, like, when we first speak with her, she kind of like unveils herself and we have this grand moment and we see her free and moving. And then when we first meet her in the real world, it's juxtaposed with her being imprisoned. Maybe that would feel a little bit more impactful where you're like, oh, like she's locked in.
Well, think about what that represents, the imagery. Like what does, when you're in that dream place, it's very misty. It feels very trapped. You feel trapped as a person. Well, I felt trapped. I actually felt a little bit afraid. Like I didn't know what was going on. Like I didn't know where she was going from. Like I felt a little bit scared. Like my character might be a little bit scared in that situation, but like you don't know where to go. You don't know what's happening. Whereas like in that feeling, the feeling of being trapped and being secluded in a way, because even if you're in a big wide open space, if you can't see anything, you can feel very alone as well.
I see what you're saying.
Does that make some sense?
Yeah, I mean, I agree.
To do with it.
Costume in the chat says, I think the reveal that she's imprisoned is such a powerful scene though. And I agree. It's funny because I would like to have more with her, but I think post the reveal, I personally, but this is just me, I liked how they initially, again, like I said, kept us from seeing her, and then when we do get that reveal, we realize the sacrifices she's made for Cantha. And there's a lot of worries too within that, like, is this even something she's okay with? Like in my playthrough, I spent almost that entire instance just like yelling because it's like, and I think we do get some great moments with the commander. Well, because I was so excited to see her. That whole facility. We'll get to that point. I mean, it's a phenomenal instance. We
are a little bit ahead of like a main story beat here as well, but it's okay.
But all of that to say, I'll talk more about it when we get there. But all that to say, I didn't mind the suspense with, again, revealing. I think it's just, they try so hard to walk a fine line in Guild Wars 2 with not overloading players with like cinematic narrative beats. But they do them so well. And I personally could take like twice as many and still be just fine, you know? But I know that like they're always very careful about how they intersperse those with other more action-oriented beats. But they did a beautiful job with what they had in this expansion. And I think it's a testament that so many of us crave more. Like we want more of these additional cutscenes.
So I think it's tough. I think I agree with you because I think that instance is the best in the game probably. And I think that even though for a complete story to feel more connected to Soo-Won, to get more about Anka, for a complete story, it would have been better for the story to have you meet Soo-Won down there and then Anka doesn't attack that time. Okay. And then you have a period in between where you could talk more to Soo-Won, learn more about Anka, and then there's the attack on that area. So also I'd like to go back, like it's a shame that entire instance area you could only visit once. Really.
Beautiful.
It'd be nice to go there twice. But
I mean, you did blow it up.
The guild hall.
You blew up though. You blew up.
And so it would have been great if it would have been cool for the story to be a more complete story if there was two instances where you go there once to first meet Soo-Won, talk to her, etc., and then again come back to defend her from Anka. But that would have taken away from that instance.
I think so.
That instance itself would have been worse if they had split it up.
I think so. I liked because I like the idea that everything was calm, and then actually no. Let's go back because there's really important stuff. There's some really important stuff before that. And we've gone ahead.
Okay. We've already skipped to Act 2.
We have way skipped ahead. Okay, but that's all right. That's okay. We're excited. We're excited about the things, and that's fine. We find out that Matron was working for Joon as well. That's something we found out just before we got to this instance. And the Joon actually really liked May, and they trusted them. But that also Trin was, in the wind. Like the Ministry had lost complete contact. They didn't know where they were. And we're kind of on a mission at this point in time to actually find Trin. And we end up trying to find where the Aetherblade, the secret camp is. We had some cool interactions. There's some stuff around Holosmiths here specifically because Ivan, who is one of the lieutenants or captains, I can't remember, And a lot of the Aetherblades seem to be a Holosmiths. Oh, actually, there are tons of different classes, like Mesmers, Scrappers.
Revenants.
Yeah, like we come across in some of in the first Satan province in the meta, there's towards the end boss is just a giant Scrapper with like the different bots as well. And I was just like, oh man, that's so good. As an engineer player, this expansion was like peak for me. It was so good because all of your elite specialization stuff was in here. It was so good.
I like that we get profession lore and profession story within an expansion, because we don't, in the other expansions, I don't really feel like we see a lot of that. So I loved that touch, and I would love to see more, because I would love to fight guardians and like elementalists and get more lore about them.
Yeah, we got to fight them because there was mirages as well, and the mesmers, like the mirages we fight in that big. Do you remember when we all played together and we got wrecked by that event? And there was the mirages, and it was the champion one, and we were all playing together. Do you remember?
Yeah, with the staff attack. Yeah.
Yes, the staff attack, which was pretty mean. But here, like you really like this part as well. It was where Marjorie was going to put down. He gave you the option to put down like this big AoE field that you could, blast to destroy this hologram wall or whatever, and then you go into the Aetherblade camp, which was very, very cool. Like this whole bit was pretty nice.
It's great because it is literally the first time in Guild Wars 2 where they teach you about how to use combos.
Pretty much, other than
the
Shinji
Monastery, but yes.
So yeah.
I don't know if they could teach. Oh yeah, they do too. I think they do. Anyway, but yeah. So we go in here. I've got the notes here. Why am I even doing that? So we're trying to find my Trin. My Trin turns up. Well, actually, let's talk about Ivan first, because you fight Ivan
Love
first.
Ivan.
Ivan is one of my favorite characters in the entire game. Like, I'm not even joking. Ivan is a legend.
The best Holomancer in Tyria.
Holomancer?
Holosmith, maybe?
What I call them. No, I call them Holomancers.
Okay, you're wrong.
I mean, it's a deep dive, but true boots.
It's a deep dive.
Would know that I only call them Holomancers.
Okay.
I won't stop.
All right, you can do that then.
But yeah,
I love Ivan.
Ivan's great.
The character writing in this expansion was just on it. I mean, on it. So many characters, the things they'd already established for them, just I feel like were so full of life in this expansion. And Ivan is such a memorable character. I mean, even like we've talked about so many, just even NPCs or passing characters that still have just stood out like a Kaineng. And, Ivan is definitely one of those, and his loyalty and dedication, I think is so fun. I really like when they tie in the different more animalistic races that we have, because they're kind of like, we get them in a lot of points of the story, but like when it comes down to it, I mean, they are also sentient races in this game, right? Like, so actually seeing them play a role just as any of the other characters or ensemble characters do, I really appreciate when they do that, because otherwise sometimes they're kind of like fun, cute little flavor in a lot of zones. But Ivan is such a great character.
There isn't many dredge that you befriend other than in Court area, really, to be fair.
But there's like 4 maps, I'd say, maybe slightly more that have dredge on them.
Yeah, it's not like Dreadnought Cliffs and all that kind of. It's the more Norn areas and the fractal.
Basically, anytime there's a cave in the mountains. But also, you're right though. I feel like if by playing through core story, you would really expect script to play a much larger role in the rest of the game, because they're everywhere in the maps in core story.
It would have been cool to see them.
I look at those as like the secondary cast, like the Skrit, the Quaggan, the Hylic, and the Dredge. They're there, but they don't get all of the spotlight. But I love seeing Ivan, a Dredge, incorporated into kind of the main cast of the stories.
Ivan is the Dredge. Sorry, I keep forgetting that if you're listening to this, you have no idea what we're talking about most of the time, and having the VOD as an accompaniment is going to be very, very, very important. I've kind of done no intro to this for audio people, but I feel a bit bad. But if you don't know what we're talking, we're on kind of Act 2. I can't remember the name of this. Oh, it's Can't Trust a Pirate with Marjorie and Goric. And you're trying to find my Trin, and then you end up fighting my Trin, and she's just completely wrecked. Like, she's drunk. She's like not in a good place. She is feeling bad about the things she's potentially done in the past. She's trying to, you know, do good and be better. But here I feel like she's drunk and she's kind of like, screw it, you know, everyone thinks I'm bad anyway, so I'm just gonna be bad, you know. And then you find out ultimately that, you know, my Trin is a revenant now. And you're like, because, you know, been to the Mist a lot, so why not? And has like this echo of Scarlet as their Mist champion, or whatever they're called. It's not Scarlet, is it? It's an echo of Scarlet. I can't remember what it is.
I guess this is kind of now more Revenant lore, because I mean, we still are in dire need of more concrete Revenant lore.
I don't get it. Yeah.
I guess because there are so many Revenants in the world, like not just players, but also in the lore. There's Ritlock, there's the Mist Strangers and Travelers that sell you the Revenant armor. My Trin, instead of like actually channeling the direct spirit, you're kind of just interacting with like a fragment of it in a way, and it like splits off. I guess you can. I don't know. Like it channels to everyone at the same time. I don't know.
Is it like a different?
You get some. You get some. You get some. You get some Revenant. Not Revenant, but you get some. You know, Dwarf. You get some Dwarf. You get some Great
we
Dwarf.
know that they went into the Mists and killed different versions of themselves, right? Like, is it something like that where there are simultaneous, like many versions or many spirits? I don't know. I mean, it could very well be that you do channel like one spirit, and spirits aren't beholden necessarily to the exact laws of our own sentience and single consciousness.
It's like a druid. You just, you know.
Shiro's private Discord messages must be popping off. I have to answer all these calls. Hold on, I can't do this.
This was a revelation for me, though.
This is wicked.
Love this story twist.
This moment.
It was one of the best.
So good. I mean, I hadn't even necessarily thought about it being a thing, and then when it was, and then I thought about the fact, like, oh my gosh, how incredible is this concept that, like, I mean, a villain could still almost live on in a sense and influence others even past if like that person, you know, invokes their spirit, and like how that could interplay, and the fact that my Trin barely seems to even be able to really have a hold on Scarlet as like a spirit that she is merged with, that you can tell that it's like affecting her. I loved it. And this was also my first time ever, before season 1 was later introduced, like fighting Scarlet, because I had never fought her in the game. I had like never actually encountered her because I never played the original Living Season 1. So to actually have her there, and the fight itself is
this is the first time you encounter Scarlet, isn't it?
It was the first time I ever fought her after she died.
Were you just like, who's this?
No, I knew who she was. I mean,
looked at the pre-show, looked at her homework.
I had to write all about it, and I've watched a lot of videos. I mean, even before the pre-show, right? I had tried to learn.
Rick probably knows more about Guild Wars 2 than anyone that played through it, like from the start, honestly, because of the amount of research you had to do. Jesus.
It was so fun, but I mean, it was really exciting. I mean, it was exciting to see her there. And I think the fight itself is really well done as well. Like, I think just like the mechanics, there's so many parts of it that the markers, they've really made those more, you know, visually distinctive for a lot of players. All of that, the kind of bullet hell element, you know, there's a lot of really fun things. And the music got me so much. That kind of like waltz, like dream-like feel as she like sweeps across the earth.
Have we heard that music before, or we've heard instances of it before previously? So it was a callback. It was a big callback. Like it's her theme. So it was like a big, huge, because it was in one of the trailers as well, I think. And you were just like, whoa, we're back. And all of season 1, I was like, it was interesting how they're tying season 1 into End of Dragons. And I was just like, the dragon cycle. And then I was like, circles. And then I was like, oh, wow, this is just epic. That it was really tying in like this, just everything. Like if you think about season 1, how we're playing it right now, and some of those characters that are back now, like my Trin, and we're just resolving some of these arcs, and I'm just like, damn, they really did have this, because ever since I've known peeps that are in it, they're like, yeah, we know what's happening for years. And I'm just like, can you tell me? Because I want to know, like, you know, they just not, like, it's ridiculous, like how And we forget this about games, you know, that this isn't just like they're kind of doing this by the year. They have this general story for years planned for so long, and you think, how are they going to getting from A to whatever letter, Z or whatever, however way you say it, like, and you just like, you follow it and you get to this point where you're at End of Dragons and 10 years later and you're like, damn, this was really good. Like, it was just so good. And this was one of those points in the story where I'm like, one of my favorite bits personally.
So
easily. So
Scarlet being invoked by my Trin.
Yes.
Also Blish as a character having kind of his spirit as an entity inside of a robot.
Yeah.
Do you think that means that we will get Mecha Palawa Joko at some point?
Probably not.
I like how we're talking about the End of Dragon story and you just launch these things. Just like, we really have no time to go into this zone.
If I was
but it's
betting,
interesting.
I would say no.
I would also say no.
My guess would be no, but I also feel like that because I personally think that. Okay, we're going deep. We're going too deep in lore. I mean, I don't know. It seems like, right, like that there is an energy or magic to the spirit, just as there is an energy or magic to the flesh, and that like those spirits that continue on, there's some kind of magical element at play. And as far as we know, Aurene consumed all of that. Like, so I don't even know if there's anything left to be. I guess you could go back in time or something. I mean, sure,
you got extracted.
You know, whatever.
Kroof actually said that as well during the instance. It was like Kroof said, I think when we went to the cave originally, Kroof was like, oh, I wonder if Joko's magic is like gone now, like completely gone now.
Yeah. Because that could be a way for them, but I don't know why they would want to kill Aurene again. But I guess in that moment she was vulnerable. So if anyone wanted to assassinate Aurene, they could.
She was being guarded, thankfully, as well.
But they didn't.
Like,
Keith would have assassinated them. Assassinate the assassin.
Yes, 100.
Absolutely.
I mean, and we don't really know how it works with Aurene, right? Like, if she, you know, takes something like that, is it kept separate in her, or is her entire magical nature fundamentally altered by what she's taken in, and then she like filters it and balances it? I don't know, but all of that to say, one of the things that I also liked from this story beat with Scarlet and my Trin is the parallel that we draw to my Trin, then also having been drawn to Joon, and this sense that it seems like for much of her life she was looking for, and she even talks about it a little bit. We find out a little bit about it, but like. That she was looking up to, especially like female figures for, like, I guess a sense of camaraderie and, you know, understanding and care, leadership, guidance. I don't know if you want to. I wouldn't go so far as like a motherly presence, but like she obviously.
She's looking for a mother figure, is what you think?
Kind of like you get the sense that she's looking for somebody like a particularly like a female figure to look up to.
Morally good person, because Scarlet was a morally bad person. Well, you know, for reasons, but like, you know, but that makes sense. Absolutely.
But she ends up swayed by them, like, and you know, the devotion and the care, the sense of being set adrift that she felt, even though Scarlet obviously used her like a tool, and Scarlet herself was like,
she was a tool,
she like, I mean, a lot of things had happened to her. She was not, you know, at the point where she was her fully original self, right? Like a lot of things had happened to her. And then we see my Trin, I think, almost gravitating towards that kind of strong figure again in Joon. And I think feeling that she wants to live up to that, but she doesn't know how to. And that, like, you know, many of the insecurities that I got a sense that she had about her own intelligence, about her own worth, these sorts of things that maybe she was seeking in these figures to validate her in a sense. She herself struggled so much with, like, empowering and seeing the worth in herself that, you know, she struggled and stumbled, and yet we know she worked really diligently, as how Joon talks about her, and based off of everything there. But I love her character. I think that these moments with my Trin are so revealing, even to the point where, you know, we've had this kind of abuse narrative with Keith in the past, right? But that having these relationships that sometimes are harmful to ourselves, but that we think we need for whatever reason, can lead to these terrible spirals in our life. And my Trin is tragic in many of those regards, although she herself has done a lot of bad things because of the path that she's taken. But I think all of this sets up like a really lovely complexity, a subtle complexity with her for her later choices and actions and like controversial possible redemption moment. So
I'm going to pull us through to the next bit. Very valid and very important points made as well. Good stuff. I'm loving it. Post Matron fight, Matron is like, you know, gonna hang out with us for the rest of the time. They're gonna be a good guy. Well, good person, whatever that means. But Marjorie is still very suspicious and very angry at them still, which it's goes on for a while, honestly. Pretty much until later, which we're going to talk about how they end, unfortunately. But, well, I say unfortunately, but it's very good. After this...
Jory, I was going to say, Jory almost died at the hands of Scarlet, and because of all the things
absolutely.
happening.
Oh, yeah,
Like,
within
there's a
reason.
lot of-
Yeah, absolutely. So there's a lot of reasons why, you know, absolutely justified why anyone would hate Matron at the moment, to be honest, let alone Marjorie. But post this fight, they go and they find out, you know, obviously Anka is the leader. They revolted against her, and now they're trying to find out on this holo map, like where Anka is going to attack next, or where there's going to be all these different things going on in Kaineng City, which is our transition to the second map. We're still quite early in, and we are working on trying to get there with paperwork in this transition toward going to Kaineng City, which was
fun.
I think it was very different, and yeah, it was randomly fun. I'm gonna just kind of forward this. Actually, Kroof said in this video, and you enjoyed this a lot, actually, and yeah.
I think it's not great. It's not a lot of story content to like get into for this podcast, but I think it's a smart way to slow down the player a little bit and to actually maneuver in a new land that makes sense to their rules and their structure, rather than just going, oh, I'm going to just take a portal over there. It's like, no, you have to kind of work for it because you're in this new region. Yeah.
It's very fun. And you get not Marjorie, Casimir a little bit more. I think you get Navan here. And then you end up getting, who do you take over to? It's
Navan.
Is it Navan you take over?
Yes.
It is.
And there are some hilarious little dialogue things. All of the boat moments, there are some great dialogue things. I dumped Navan in the water.
Same. That was funny.
Y'all let her in the water. I would never. I'm a gracious host.
No, you did it.
And she doesn't let you forget it.
Yeah, that's the light layer.
She brings it up throughout the expansion if you dropped her in the water at that point, which I thought was one of the funniest little details. I loved that. I also just liked that they actually had us like go by boat and stuff at various points.
Right? Yeah.
It makes the map, it makes the world feel cohesive. Like there's a throughput, you know? How do we get here? And I think Guild Wars 2 does that a lot in its story where, you know, you have to walk to this pass and then go through, or, you know, stuff like that. The map feels vibrant and alive, but I like when they put those little journeys in, and I particularly liked with End of Dragons that they had these dialogue and character moments as well, since you can have people join you in the skiff.
Yeah, and they like to do that because it's the masteries, right? And so, you know, Heart of Thorns and Path of Fire as well, they throughout the story would either require you to have a certain mastery, or, well, actually in Path of Fire it is kind of require you to have a certain mastery because you can't get to certain places on the maps without the mountains. So it's a nice way to introduce you to these things.
Okay, so we get to Kaineng. We're on the way to Kaineng, and still Marjorie pissed at Trin. But Trin says a line which I wrote down, I quoted, and it said, "Scarlet made me feel like I was part of something bigger," which is kind of what we were talking about before as well. And I think a lot of the time, and this is something in mental health when we're talking about gangs and why we belong to different groups, especially when you were younger and you didn't have parental figures and different people to look up to who were, as we would say, morally good. You know, we look for just people who can guide us, whether or not they're good or bad. Like, someone is better than nothing, and Scarlet for her was like a very important person. And I think she was trying to really give us this side of her for, like, you know, I just needed someone, and there was someone, and I needed something. Otherwise, you know, where would I have been? So there is these kind of, I like that history and like that lore and that build up of Trin for sure. I really did start to like Trin quite a lot, honestly. Personally, I thought I did like them. They were one of my favorites. Anyway, we're in Kaineng. This is kind of where we get the bot, and we also get some noodles. But we also, more importantly, we meet Yao for the first time.
The important part, the introduction to the spicy Kaineng bowl.
Yes.
Have you know?
We do stop, but that's when after we've met Yao, isn't it? I think.
Sorry,
That's before we meet Yao.
Kruf's
Oh, it's before.
signature dish, the spicy
Yeah.
Kaineng
Oh, is
bowl.
this? Oh, this was the actual one. Oh, okay. Is this where you want to slip this in then? Is it?
Jebro?
Go on, slip it in. Slip it in.
She said that.
The podcast. Oh god damn, Jesus.
You know, if you ever want to get some lore on my dish that I made, and I perhaps
You
might
might as well talk about it now. Like what the dish you made, where you
No,
did.
we have to keep on topic, Jebro, but we can at least drop a hint. Go watch that stream, watch that VOD. But yeah, this is where I got the inspiration for my dish, the spicy Kaineng bowl.
In the Guild Wars 2 cooking competition that we were a part of recently.
Which Kruf won. Like,
One.
But with the help of Rook and Emmy's kindness and generosity and making me for comfortable, thank
and
you.
less good food that we made, and
wow! Oh my god!
Thank you for being bad.
Yeah, thank you for sucking.
But yeah, for anybody who missed that, we did do that competition. Kruf won and so deserved, made spicy Kaineng noodles. And that was over on Unleash the Feast, although it was on all of our channels as well. So you can find it in our VODs too, if you want to watch there. Yes, I love this. We got the introduction to Yao here. This is, it's so funny because, I'll be honest with everybody. End of Dragons, I personally think is my absolute favorite expansion in this game. Yeah. I adored this expansion. As with everything, of course, we always try to provide like well-rounded feelings and thoughts. Kaineng is so tough for me because it is actually one of my favorite maps I've ever been on in a game. Like when I first got in there, the sheer range of it, the detail, the size of it, it is so beautiful. The lighting effects, all of the little details as you wander around, meeting Yao. So great. It, we talked about this a little bit last week, but it meant so much to see, and this game has meant so much to me as far as LGBTQI plus rep goes.
Yeah.
For some, in many different ways we connect to it. But I talked last week about, my partner who's non-binary, and it meant it so much, even just for me to see this character in the game and be like, wow, this is, oh my gosh. There's actually representation in this game. This is the only MMO I play, period, where we have agender or non-binary characters, because there are multiple, right? We have trans characters as well, although I'd love to see a trans character like right up in the spotlight, although non-binary falls in trans. But it's one of those things where the representation is gorgeous. Kaineng is one of the few places where I desperately think we needed much more story.
Fully.
Yao gets introduced and the introduction is so strong, but after this point, Yao basically falls off. There's almost nothing with Yao. We get some great moments.
I feel like Yao is very busy, doing stuff elsewhere. And if you go into some of the events, I feel like they're not so directly in the story, but they're also kind of in a lot of events and side events, which is weird.
Yes.
But
if
not
you do the
enough.
meta event, I think that we should have as even more of an introduction to the nature of the void and how it was affecting people. To me, it felt like there should have been an entire, not a complete diversion of quest, because I think it still falls completely within the realm of everything here, right? The history, the city, the groups, the factions, the ministries, and the role that they currently play. This corruption of the energy of Jade. What is Jade? How are they using it in Cantha? What is the void? There are these incredible little vignettes around Kaineng where you can come across these void corruption spots. And those should have been a part of the story. And Yao's part in the meta event is great because we learn a little bit more there about the inner workings. But again, it's not like when we take the boat ride with Rama. It's not like when we have these actual strong reinforced character beats. So for me, it's tough because Kaineng I actually love, and I think many people maybe didn't love it as much as I did, but I actually love Kaineng City. Yeah. But this piece of the story was one spot where it felt like I needed more. I needed a little bit more flesh out in this bit to really use that set well, to really get a sense of the people and the city, and Yao as a character who I hope sticks around for many, many, many expansions to come and becomes a bigger character, because I really love them a lot. So
Well, I'm
Yeah,
looking
yeah.
forward to Living World,
Mhm.
him coming back because they need to teach Timey how to replace their body parts.
Yes.
Jesus Christ. Replace them. Do you mean to get more mobility with, the application of different tools? Or,
Like her braces and stuff.
yeah, rather than potentially
Yao
replacing
has-
parts of their body?
Yeah,
I mean, maybe
I
she
mean, they
wants
have-
to just become
We
a
could have
cyborg.
I mean, I
tech her
guess.
out.
I mean,
We
I
can
guess
turn her
the
into little
arms,
Scruffy.
But we also do forget, like, with Yao, there isn't there is the non-binary part, but there's also the huge, the arm, like having the amputated arm and then having tech, in that place is actually a big thing in there that we forget about. It's very cool, but it's also, about disability as well. It's also about, introducing that into a game, which is, something that Elder Scrolls did do. A little bit here and there.
The story of Timey has already started incorporating Jade tech into, like, she has a kind of like suit.
We're coming up to that.
Enhancements.
Yeah, we're coming up to that soon.
I like a lot of new Kaineng, and I totally agree with you, Rook. We did get story, but it was purely through dialogue rather than having that physical representation of the character alongside you or like following them along to get your footing. And I'm starting to realize that was kind of a lot of the expansion. I love the story that we got, but the way that it was implemented felt a little too heavy on just relying on your communication system, because it was a lot of those like bubble sequences over your head. And it, especially for new Kaineng, it would have been nice if we were like taken on a tour of it in a sense, and that we start seeing this pop up of like malfunctioning stuff, and we're like, oh, what's that about? And Yao's also like, yeah, this has been happening recently, I don't know what's going on. And we start to go on that adventure, and then at a certain point we break off and we go and do our own stuff. So Kaineng felt a little dry in that area, but aesthetically speaking, it was a huge victory to see an actual city playable, not just we're going around to different vendors. It's like there's content here, there's events, there's things to do, and there's some nice like lore tidbits that you can go and find if you want to. So
But I am looking forward to revisiting it, hopefully in the Living World, having it get a little more filled out.
I have a feeling that might be why it was less focused in the expansion, because it does feel like they could use it as a massive part of story moving forward once we push past the Living Season 1 re-release. That like the people and how they're redefining themselves and these other characters that we've had introduced, like Yao, or whatever's happening in the palace and everything, right? Because if you go to the ruins of
Around
old
Kaineng.
Kaineng and you do the jump puzzle, there is a very interesting spirit up there who tells you about the old Raisu Palace and something that seems to be stirring there, which very much feels like it could be our next Living Season arc. So it does seem like I actually have fallen more in love with the events and hidden things. There's that great little event even in the old Kaineng ruins where you find the ghosts of past the lovers and like everything. So there's a lot of great stuff there, but I could see it definitely being something where they were like, we know we're going to feature this a little bit later, so let's push through this and then we're going to do the other stuff for the expansion, you know?
I think you're going to add like a bank and crafting areas to the city?
it would be nice
They're not going to do that.
Why not?
if
Kaineng
season
City
6
is not a typical city.
It's a city.
In
It's a
Guild Wars
city.
2.
What do you mean?
It's not a typical city though.
Well, neither
it's
is
an
Amnoon.
active. It's an active zone. We'll go and look at Amnoon's size compared to Kaineng in terms
well,
of
that
a
doesn't
map
mean you,
region.
like, and the upper area
Tell
where
me.
like the rich people is, you can add like, because there are a bunch of locked doors, there's apartment buildings, you could add systems like a small hub, because I think actually using New Kaineng City as a hub for season 6, if they do go out and do like the drowned Kaineng stuff, seeing more about how people are redefining their life after the void stuff, if you want to have people in that zone a little bit longer, story and certain features would be very smart. But also
Might
Arborstone
be.
is right
You've
there.
got Arborstone.
exactly.
You don't
That's
need it.
Arborstone's right there.
That's why.
The
Exactly
reason
what I
why
was
they
going to
didn't do
say.
it is probably because they wanted to
Arborstone is
have
the
people
hub.
concentrate more on Arborstone, as it is a mastery that you're supposed to develop.
Exactly.
So,
Yeah, it wouldn't make any sense, honestly. I would like because
I mean, it makes a lot of sense because it's a city, but it doesn't make any
It's a
sense because
very-
they want you to concentrate on Arborstone.
this is the thing though. The zone is very different. Like to any zone in Guild Wars 2 is like it's or any game, there's not many cities which is a zone where there's events and like quests or hardcore whatever going on at the same time. It's just very unique, and I just personally don't think they're going to go back there much. Honestly, don't. I think maybe they could have like bring some side events. They just don't do that. Like they just don't. Like they go forward. How many maps are in Guild Wars 2? We normally get like maps per living story. They did start to retreat from that a little bit. But we have 65 plus maps in the game. It's probably more than most MMORPGs. I wonder how many maps there are.
Seasons,
I don't know.
In Heart of Thorns, we went back to Terir quite frequently. So I can see them going back to,
possibly,
because this is an expansion zone. It's not just a seasonal zone. It's a part of the entire package.
True. I like it, but I'm not like overly. I think there's a lot of open space inside that I'm not massively keen on, like warehousey spaces. I like the more wrecked bits around the outside. Like I like those parts, and then I like the kind of the ruins in the northeast sector of the map and the southern side
really
in
like the
kind
city
of
aspects of the city. You like the
and the older parts, which we said slummy. That was a word when we were thinking about the music, but like kind of the more abandoned parts and the historic parts. But I do like the tech. Like the holograms and all that kind of stuff as well, and the cats and all that fun stuff. And there is some. And, using the zip lines and that kind of stuff, there is some really cool modern stuff in there, and I do like it. I just think there's just a lot of holes. But like as I'm thinking about it and watching Kroof going through it now, but there is like these awesome like waterways which kind of remind you a little bit of like Venice, for example. Like, there's some really interesting kind of influences there, and you think about the tall like high buildings and stuff, and they're like mountains. They're so massive. And you can see the history ingrained because they're built on on the top of a lot of these older structures and just the rock and the stone and stuff. So you can kind of see what it's built on top of. So yeah, it is a very, very cool zone. I really like 18 Brothers. To be fair, I just love that zone so much. But yeah, like they're all very, very unique. As you go through them, they're so different. You've got this kind of mix between small town intro into Cantha, and then you've got this very dense technological city, and then you've got the forest, and then you've got this massive open wide jade sea. Like you've literally got like different kind of biomes, these huge places. Anyway, I'm gonna get massively off topic and bring us back.
I think the biggest aspect of New Kaineng is probably its story. This is where we really get into the magic. We do the instance with like where we get a little sneak peek of the behemoth for the meta event, but we find out about the magic there. We go back to my Trin at her apartment. We get a little bit more story development of her, and then it leads us to the reactor, where we really have a huge moment of the story.
I really thought, I'm glad you brought up that moment with my Trin's apartment, because the usage of their quest time, right? Like that's something that I get a really strong sense that they constantly have big concerns about. How do we communicate as much as possible in what might be the only cutscene attributed to this character for the whole expansion, right? Which isn't always the case with every other style of game, but it is something that draws people to Guild Wars 2. I mean, that ease of being able to move through stories. But I think also does cause them to have to innovate in creative ways. And I loved that apartment. I thought it was such a creative way to communicate so much about a character in just this like one moment. As you go around and you see how she's collected all these stray cats. She's trying to figure out how to even care for a cat, and like all the cats have different personalities, and the junk she's held on to, and the things that she cares about. There's a game that came out semi-recently. Oh, what is it called?
Stray?
Out? No, well, Stray is cute.
Cats?
No, there's one that's about moving out, packing.
We Fit?
No, it's a game where. Thank you. It was good. It was good.
Or something like that, or
unboxing. Yeah.
Packing. Anyway, yeah.
There's one that's about like packing up a place Like you are packing up a room, and it tells this narrative as you are like going through and packing. Because like when you think about it, this is gonna sound dark, and I don't mean it in a dark way. Don't mean it in a dark way, but like, other than ourselves, what do we leave behind? You know, like our physical body and our mind, like that is a part of us. But when that is not in a place, or when we are gone, in a sense, what do we leave that communicates who we are? And you think about living spaces, and you think about writing, and you think about voice messages or text messages, or you think about, it's the evidence of a life. And I genuinely loved that room with my Trin, because I thought it was such an effective use of storytelling that was unconventional. You know, it wasn't my Trin sitting down and being like, when I was 4 years old, I had this thing happen to me. But you get a sense of the life she's struggling to make. And you also get a sense of like the fact that she's in the slums and things like that. Right? Like a lot of times, especially in the world, we have a tendency to turn a blind eye to those people who, you know, we may think for whatever reason are beneath us. It oftentimes happens with homeless, you know, viewing them less as people and more as just an abstract entity. Yeah. And so to like see this life, like these little scraps of life in this messy, cluttered little apartment in the slums, I thought was really poignant. And I actually, that moment has stuck with me, funnily enough, as some of the most innovative storytelling I think I've seen in MMO Quest in a long time.
That game you're talking about is a few years. It's been around for a few years now. That unpacking game, that's what it's called.
Unpacking.
And it is a very, very powerful game, because it tells the story of, you know, someone who's moving from place to place, but through their life and through the different relationships they have. You never see people. You never see them, you just find different things. And it's actually really, if you played through the whole thing, I'm not going to spoil it, but like, it's very good. Like you have to, it's just so, it's amazing how you can just have rooms and you just have to put things in their places, or you have to pick them up and put them somewhere else to reveal story. It's such a good game. If you haven't played it and you like mental health stuff as well, specifically, it's just so good. But yeah, and you will appreciate that even more probably if you do complete it. So you have to go, please stream it. I would love to see a reaction. Reader Geek actually got me to play that on one of my streams, and it was very powerful.
That scene, learning so much about my Trin through the stuff in her apartment, that was a great method of storytelling. It kind of reminds me of season 3, when you learned a lot about Codicus from his room.
Oh yeah, the painting of Logan.
Wow.
And also just the room with the space all around it.
Maybe Scarlett's,
that too.
Like Scarlett's kind of area as well.
Yeah,
Scarlett's home, Scarlett's hideout.
Right.
That was more of that. Yeah.
There's a lot of reflexive,
absolutely.
like having the villain kind of be like,
they give you
humanized through their own
exactly
their own living area, because that's where you're the most casual and most like laid back, and you're not putting up this front of like I have to conquer something or like achieve a goal.
Well, that's when the story becomes more the effort is gone, like because you can have a baddie, you can have a baddie in a game and you're like, that person's bad and we have to kill them or we have to stop them. But why are they bad? You know, it's a simple why. Like people don't always ask those questions. I think we get that more.
In Codicus's situation, it was because he likes Logan, and clearly you're
he's vain. All baddies like Logan, confirmed.
It's okay. Right, we're gonna go forward.
But this was smart to humanize my Trin at this point, because the next step with the reactor might be her last chance.
We have the reactor.
Wow.
Oh, what was it? There was in between that. There was a point where Crewforge also saw the repair chief. KESTREL, or one of the Tengu, they don't like them. Apparently, fine. You got excited.
No, I love them.
All right, cool.
But we got more.
Best instance ever.
But like that one thing before in the previous instance, like when you had to collect power cores and stuff with the Jade bot was very, very cool. I just wanted to note that was a fun thing. And also, you find out about the entire empire basically runs on Jade Tech, and this is where you kind of build up how important Soo-Won really is. Like, not only are they this elder dragon with all this power, and they do this kind of thing, you understand that they are basically the whole empire is on their back, kind of. Really, that's the feeling I got. Like, just everything is powered by them. The reason they're in the future and the way they are is pretty much because of the dragon, but also with the help, obviously, the tech. They wouldn't have got there without the tech either, obviously. So there's kind of this working humans or Tengu or whatever, all the races, all the people, with the dragons as well, or with Soo-Won specifically. So that was kind of interesting. And yeah, we get to the reactor, and you've been guided here by Joon, but like you don't have access, and like this the whole facility starts to attack you. I was just like, wow, no, you just can't get a break, man. Come on, dude. Like, what's happening? Like, this whole thing was just fun. It was good times.
And then learning that Anka and the other Aetherblades have broken through and infiltrated.
Yes.
It's a good shift from like calm. Oh, everything. So it was a beautiful instance as well, being underwater, seeing dolphins and whales, and then being like, oh, this is really cool. We're learning so much about the story. Oh no, we suddenly have to fight. Let's go.
This whole facility is incredible, right? I mean, there's obviously a little like preamble thing as you get into it. And I think the tension with Joon is really interesting. One of my favorite character arcs, I actually think, one of the ones that I think is best communicated is Joon's arc in End of Dragons. Because when you eventually break through to her in her manner and like you have a very frank kind of heart-to-heart with her, I think the culmination of everything that starts like here and that you've even seen before, she agrees to work with you, but then she's lying to you, and then you both feel like you're kind of on eggshells around each other, but then she doesn't trust you in this facility. And of course, we've gotten the stakes about what Jade Tech means to Cantha, and later we do find out that Joon herself is, I think, a deeply caring person in her own way, and she did, value Soo-Won. But what I love about this like whole sequence, one, the facility is just incredible and breathtaking, and Boots, I am with you in that. Please let us go back there, because I mean, you can go and replay, but I just want to take like 50 pictures there. It was blown away. It felt so magical. It felt so mysterious. I love a good set reveal in a game, where like you're adding on to that, like the stakes, the level, the way you're kind of just opening everything up. It reminds me of exploring Myst for the first time when I was a kid, and you turn a corner and there'd be some weird bizarre thing and you're like, what is this? What secrets does it hold?
How often do you take screenshots when you're playing story the first time?
So much.
Yeah, I do as well. I'm bad at that.
Yeah, but I felt a lot of that same sense of wonder, this spectacle, this incredible facility. And I think the tension with Joon was so interesting going into this, because you were talking, Jeb, about how Soo-Won has become like the back for this empire, and in many ways Soo-Won has given up everything to help humanity. Because, of what the risk that she poses, but I think also maybe, although this isn't as explicitly stated, perhaps a bit of guilt about what's happened with her children. Like, the relationship that you have with Aurenes is very different in that you are both able to operate as free entities, and you both help and support and lift each other up. But Soo-Won being used as like a mega battery is something that she has technically agreed to, but it does create this very different dynamic. And especially when you're so unsure of Joon and where she stands, and is she just doing this because of corporate greed? Is she just doing this because, hey, the dragon said that she would? Does she even consider the dragon to be its own independent sentient, creature? Like, all those things I think play in so well as you go through this facility. And I like that the commander even calls some of it out and is like, what are you doing with this dragon? And is like really upset
weird, isn't it?
it.
Like, I don't feel like I didn't question that enough maybe when I was playing it, honestly. Like, it was just kind of like, I just maybe kind of accepted that she was okay with, because in this instance, she says like she's okay with it. And it's like, she's consenting to this thing. And I'm like, well, yeah, but like, why? Like, what's the reason why? Like, that was what I wanted to know. Like, why? Because you're the opposite of free right now. Like, but you're helping other people be free, but like, you're really selfless. And when you think about it, like from the very beginning, when she's the one who's, created this water dragon, what she is, and she's managing all of this different magic in this way. Like, she's always been taking care of people. Since the moment she existed, she's been taking care of the world, creating other dragons so that she can also like take care of herself and disperse this magic, making sure everyone else is okay. So I'm like, damn, this person is like the ultimate selfless being, God person. And I'm just like, damn, like feel really, it kind of sucks. Honestly, I just feel bad for them that they couldn't even have like a moment to just be free and like have that feeling. It was just, yeah, I guess thinking about it now. Anyway, sorry, random thoughts. Like, and they're just kind of spawning around in my head.
I think Soo-Won as a character is...
It's cool.
That's why I want more. I wanted more from her. But what she is fairly effective, because you go through this cycle of she creates the dragons and has hopes for them, hopes for her children, as any mother would, and then it starts to go south. And then I think when Zaitan rose and she defended Cantha and she was admired and praised from the people for saving them, then maybe she felt like a sense of connection to something, like another sense of, oh, these are my children as well. Every person in Tyria. And I always view her getting into that battery as like her own very strange sense of freedom, because at each point she says that she chose this and she wanted to. So it is a little bit dark and sad, because it's like you have to confine yourself into this location to feel a sense of extra worth and extra protection, because everything you've done in the past has kind of gone wrong. She's an interesting character, so I really would have loved to have seen more from that and like really get into the mentality of Soo-Won. But from what was shown, I enjoyed especially this this chapter.
You get to see, so in this part, this is where we are. We're in the kind of in the mind. You said the mind palace in you earlier, of Soo-Won, and they are talking about. This is where the void starts to come up, but they don't say the void specifically. And she said she doesn't need saving, and they are there by their own choice. And you know, she's there to help create Dragon Jade. Yeah, okay. And she started to explain about how the dragons died, and then we start to figure out that killing the dragons probably wasn't a good thing. Like, because all of this magic was like becoming like void magic, and it was just like powering this, you know, this negative side of the world, basically, which is kind of what the void is. This space, this emptiness, you know, bad, you know, all of this is kind of what it's affiliated with. And then she says this line, and I was like, wow, this is like deep. She's just like one-liner. When I'm gone, all of Tyria will be destroyed. Like, that's one of the things. That was basically something she said before moving on to the fact that I basically want Aurenes to take over, and is unfortunately just not in this place where they can receive all of this magic. They're not, you know, they haven't evolved, they haven't got to that time, and I need to help them, and we need more time. So there's this real sense of urgency, but also this sense that, you know, they're kind of not ready for this, but which is kind of one of those typical storylines you see in a lot of different movies and TV shows. You know, you've got to be this person, but you're not there yet. And so like you've got to put that extra, you know, 110% in. That feeling, I got that feeling, but it's still cool because there was so much mixed in with it. So that's kind of where we are. And she's just like, she must be ready. And she doesn't, and she, more importantly, she says, you know, and I don't want you to try and save me. Like, do not save me. I just don't even try. And it's just like, wow, this is a lot, man. Like, it was so heavy.
She really is mother.
Yeah, absolutely.
Her energy is giving mother. No matter who she's talking to, she's like, she realizes that she created Tyria. So she's like, even the dragons are more of her direct offspring. She's like, you, Commander, small human, you're a tiny little mortal. You know, in the trailer, it's like mortal lives are like little flames, quick, hot, then gone. And so, but she still values that. And that's why I like Soo-Won.
Yeah.
Yeah, she is a really powerful entity, you know. I think it's so tough. We mentioned, yes, I would have loved to have spent more time with her. I think it would have been so great to just even to see Aurenes get to have more time with her. And they talk a lot about that. Like, you know, there are these lines, I wish we had more time, I wish. And I think Aurenes in particular feels it. And in many ways, I love and hate it. because I mean, Aurene already lost a mother before she ever even knew her with Glint. And even at the start of this expansion, when you see her laying down after her power has been siphoned off, her pose is so strikingly like Glint's body when she's like huddled next to it. And to then find another figure that in some way can be a guiding light to you and a relation to you that you then also lose. I think in many ways with Aurene, her journey has been one of both accepting the help of others, but also finding her own inner strength. And I think that's maybe why I resonate with her character a lot, that like even in the face of feeling unprepared, overwhelmed, you have this great burden on your shoulders. How do you stay true to yourself and find your own resolve, bolstered by those around you to continue on? So in some ways it does feel appropriate that, you know, to the themes of her story, she gets these beautiful fleeting moments with Soo-Won, but that, you know, once again, she has to find and carry herself. And like, I do appreciate that. And I think she steps up so beautifully. And I'm so proud of our girl. And she's just majestic and wonderful. She really did that. She really did it.
But she had a lot of losses. Like when you say about a story, like she had loss from the beginning, and that's all she kind of experiences. I mean, she gains a lot, but she does lose a lot. She loses a mum, she loses a grandma, you know, all of these things she keeps going through, and it's like, Jesus Christ. Like, no, like, she's a pretty strong character. Like, and yeah, it's interesting how, I guess, you know, the relationship that Soo-Won has with humans in a way is kind of mirrored with how Aurenes is as well, but in a very different way. Whereas like Aurene's kind of the back of a lot of battles and strength for like, you know, but in a very different free way. Whereas in Cantha, kind of Soo-Won's in the factory. And siphoning off magic. But like, you know,
she said Duracell.
She is, but like she is Kroof, right? I mean, that's the thing. Yeah. Kind of does feel like that.
But of her own will.
But yeah,
of her own
absolutely.
will. Mm-hmm. I mean, there is also this beautiful metaphor with Aurene, because I think we all, I mean, you might have a great relationship with your parents. You might have a great relationship with your whole family. You might have never known your family. You might have a different kind of family. You might have, you know, whatever it is, right? But we all deal with the legacy of the world before us or the people who came before us. And in many ways, I think Aurene is a beautiful metaphor as well for, you know, how do you take even the worst parts of things that you're connected to and in a sense, purify them in yourselves. Yeah, like how do you grow from that and change from that and turn what would be corrupted, you know, this corruption, these bad memories, these dark thoughts, these dark moments, you know, these maybe troubled relationships, or maybe relationships that weren't troubled but you lost too soon, or grief, or whatever it is, right? And then how do you turn it into your own light? I think that's a beautiful metaphor. And I think a lot of her conversations with Soo-Won, for all that they are brief, and in these moments too, oh my gosh, I was so scared Soo-Won was just gonna die then and there. I was just yelling.
Anka shows up and she started blasting.
Yeah.
I know, but it's like, there's so much in this one instance. It's so good. The dramatic beats, the storytelling, the action, it all comes together so well, and it leaves a huge impression. Absolutely.
Well, there's this part now where, and that's a really, really important part. Relationships. This End of Dragon is like all about relationships all over the place. Everywhere. Like my Trin, like why they are the way they are. Relationships, a mother figure, you know, Scarlet, everyone else, you know, Soo-Won, you're talking about Aurene, you're talking about you're talking about something which is a very cyclical thing, very cyclical. It's more like, you know, these just paths that people go down where they have a parent that is a bad influence on them and they repeat the cycle all the way down their family line. And it takes a great, tremendous amount of strength and looking at yourself as a person to get out of that and to form a new line for you, for your family, for your relationships as you move forward. It's a huge thing in mental health, which is a big part of the work that I do with clients, you know, looking at those past relationships and seeing, you know, when you become aware and insightful of that, then you can instigate change and movement towards another place of, you know, just being able to do better in the world as a person, in your relationships, and treat people differently and better. I've gone through that myself. I'm sure we all have in very different ways. But like, yeah, absolutely, yeah, solid. That was, yeah, really important about that. Good, really, really good pick. I fucking love you guys. You're so good at this. Sorry.
Like, where did that come from?
No, sorry. I just got randomly I'm so fucking glad. The last couple of weeks have just been weird. Getting a weird teary feeling in but it's a happy, good feeling. It's like I love that you all think about this kind of stuff. It really does give me a lot of energy, especially with my work.
One of us has to cry each podcast.
No.
It's not a podcast.
God damn, it's been really, it's been a couple of weeks, hasn't it? But it's just, I love it. It's so good. It gives me so much energy, and I think you can hear that sometimes in my voice, hopefully. But yeah, no, I love it when we connect, because you can connect. If you can connect to stories in this way, it makes you more powerful. It makes you stick to you more. It makes you want to be involved in it more. It's important. It really is. And I wish I'd done this more in the game early on than just play PvP and got salty. But there you go, we're here now. Anka in the lab. Yes, blasts. Poor flipping Soo-Won. She's sitting there. She can't do anything. And then there's Anka, but there's something that Soo-Won says. I wanted to pick out these quotes at time to time. And she says, when the time comes, the cycle must end. And you're like, damn, we're being constantly reminded that this whole thing is coming to an end. And they're literally telling us. And then you're trying to escape the lab. And that's it. That's a wild ride in itself. And then you've got Trin, who kind of sacrifices themselves so you can escape and you can be safe. I was sad. I felt that I was I wonder, Boots, were you sad when Trin kind of sacrificed themselves?
Yeah, I was sad. It was a very the most poignant poignant. I don't know if poignant is the right word. It was the coolest clip, I think, in the game, right? It was I don't think I've seen the character cutscene. Yeah, I don't think I've seen a character be that cold in the game before. Be that,
What do you mean cold? Sorry,
I'm talking about
something else. Oh right, sorry. I was like Matron. Matron was like, yeah, you're so right. Wow, absolutely. Continue. Say more.
I don't know. I just found it very cool when it happened, because I was like, wow, this is a step up from anything I've seen before in the game. And
what was the coldness you were talking about? Tell me more about
that. Can you fast forward to it, maybe?
Yes. That will help, actually, because you're right. I was watching this last night, actually, and I think we all do, completely agree. It was dark. This was so dark. In comparison to it, it's coming up quite soon. You're absolutely right, because they get separated by this force field. And do you know what I thought originally? And I think I wrote in the notes, I'm not sure. I thought Star Trek, Spock, and flipping Captain Kirk when they're separated by the door. And Spock's got to sacrifice himself and get all this radiation and this poison into his body. And basically these two best friends kind of die. I know they're not best friends, but Marjorie and Trin start to get a little bit closer, and we do.
Co-workers.
And I was like, well, you co-workers. But I was I got heavy Star Trek vibes back in the day, and I was like, damn, this is cool. And I was wondering, I wonder if they thought about that too. If they'd been sitting next to the force field, then sure, then it would have been a thing.
Line Triangle says Kotick is shooting Demi is the only thing that compares, and yeah, I guess very similar things happening for sure. But I feel like that was less impactful, even though
they were different. The Demi one felt more emotional.
Yeah,
because
it felt megalomaniac-y.
Yeah,
even though it's his daughter, which is wild.
Oh yeah, now I remember. But I don't remember that as much as I know it's a long time ago.
With the Demi one, it was more of that extreme power difference, where Demi was the daughter always trying to catch up, and so it was very soft and tender when she died. But with this, it was kind of two equal forces. Anka was maybe pulling ahead, but just also the execution and the lighting and the whole. This was the point. Afterwards. This was the point of the story where I said, "Oh, this is dark."
Yeah, you did.
They mean what they are trying to do, and they're not pulling punches. This is when I really clicked into the story.
Yeah, and so the shoot off happens. My Trin doesn't hit. Anka does. Falls down a little bit. And then
There
just
you go.
that
You're gonna
line
see it now if
afterwards.
you want to go
Yeah,
for it.
okay.
It's here. You can explain it as it's happening because
Just that line
it's just
afterwards
taking
from
a
Anka,
second.
it's just, oh, I guess my aim was off a bit, and then
I was sight's still off.
I also just
Boom.
love that, like, my Trin, what she learned and what she studied and what she put effort into, right, makes it so that in this moment she could even possibly feasibly understand how to shut this facility down. And so, like, in many ways, while her heroic moment seems as though it is just this one choice to sacrifice herself, it's actually a culmination of her own work and growth. And like her doing this and facing something that she once thought was like a family unit that mattered to her more than anything, but realizing that there's a greater good, I think it's such a huge moment.
yeah, and I think also the reason why I said it was cold is because yes, that line is cold. Yes, she does this in a calculating, executory manner, but more importantly, they have a lot of shared history together, Anka and Trin, a lot, and she just doesn't mention any of that at the death of this person who was her friend for so long.
We've said this stream it's in the title as well. Spoilers. That if you're here now and you don't engage, that we're talking about story. This is not my fault. This is not my fault.
You clicked.
You clicked. Yeah.
But spoilers further up.
There,
closer to the
if you are
beginning of
listening or watching now live, especially, do not watch anymore because like we're giving you all the things. Yes, absolutely. That is literally the darkest I feel like we gone with. But you know what? I was like, for Anka as well, they didn't even look away or anything. They just looked at him and were just like, there was no emotion. There was nothing. And if like you think like how much they must have been through in the mist, like and killing people themselves or whatever, how many times they did that where they got to this point where this means literally nothing to them. Because this is a finality. This is an end. This is like they are dead. They are gone to the mist or wherever maybe. But like they're still dead here, like that. They're not getting up, and then like that differential. And I feel there was a feeling here where I was like, I wonder if Anka even feels like there's a difference between the real world and the mist at this point.
That's probably part of it. It's just she can't. Well, she can differentiate, I guess, but she just doesn't think of Tyria as a real.
She's been desensitized to it, probably.
Absolutely.
But this is technically, if they play the fractals in the same manner, this is the first time she actually gets to kill Trin, because she's probably killed herself so many times and has seen Trin escape and then like reform up. This would be the first time she like does it. Which is so dark.
It is dark. It's cool though at the same time, because you love those darker kind of storylines, because if you need it, you need the light and the dark to go together, because otherwise you can't have the light without the darkness, as we all know. But like you know, it's
Anka like,
very good.
Is Anka like Gore the God Killer?
In what sense? Just like
life ruined by ridiculously powerful forces beyond her control, and then finally says no more gods.
Ooh,
that's actually really interesting. I like to view Anka as almost the voice of the void, where like she is the objective consequence that the commander and everyone should be facing. So I like to view the void and Anka as kind of a similar entity, especially like when we start to fight Anka.
Yeah, I mean, the void is, I think it's always interesting because when you view something like the void, and you're just like, oh, so like dark, evil, chaos, energy, antithesis to life kind of thing. I think that's can be difficult to put into a more personal way as opposed to just an abstraction. I think maybe the difference in this would be that what I get from Anka is less like I was put at the mercy of forces beyond my control, and now I refuse to acknowledge like those forces, right? Like the idea of like great powerful gods, you know, did this to me, so now I refuse to honor the gods. It almost feels like to me with Anka that there was this sense of I did take my own future into my own hands, and I did these things and I chose to do this, and the more and more and more that I did it, the more I desensitized myself to it, the more I realized that does it even matter? Nothing matters. Nothing at all in the world matters. We will all die. What are we, brief little flames? Great, then we'll be gone. Like, so if nothing matters, then why do we pretend like it does? And I think that's the big crux of what these two things represent, right? the idea of Obi in the chat used the word apathy, which I actually really love. This idea of cold apathy as opposed to the warmth and light of empathy or sympathy or compassion. Like, do things really matter ultimately? Does it matter if I sat and played a video game all day in the grand scheme of the entire scope of the cosmic universe? No.
Depends which game.
Fortnite.
Fortnite for sure definitely matters.
yeah.
But the thing is that our life has meaning in that it is meaningful to us, and that the lives of others, if we give them meaning, can also enhance the meaning that we feel in a moment, in a time. That caring and engaging with the world, I think, will always give you something back. Whereas if you embrace this kind of mindset, you expect nothing and you get nothing. And like, do things matter in the end? Probably not, in the sense that like there's not going to be anybody writing down, and on, you know, the 2nd of September, all of the Lightbringers played Fortnite into the of the universe. Like, no.
Yes.
But the thing is that it doesn't invalidate the fact that we were here and that in this moment that we cared. And I think in this scene in particular between Anka and my Trin, you see this decision, right? My Trin decides to care. And because of that, her sacrifice has resonance and meaning in many different ways to the people of Cantha. Some still hate her. Some consider her to have been a hero in this moment. But the ripples she left in a regard are powerful. And others continued on to then do great things because of her. Whereas Anka feels nothing and doesn't care and loses something but doesn't even realize it, you know? Doesn't even have that connection anymore.
Do you think that part of the reason why she is nihilistic like that is because she subscribes to the very popular theory that Tyria itself is like a fractal in that it repeats every 2 hours and nothing really matters?
You know what, Boots? I think you could have been a great champion of the Void. That would be like that'd be like the most, because you're just like nothing. It's like nothing matters. Because the Void, technically, the Void was here first, so the Void, it got a little shafted by Soo-Won.
In the next expansion, the waters start to boil, and out from the seas comes old fisherman Boots, just drinking Void energy. Yeah, that could be a thing.
I'm gonna roll us on.
This was a great one.
All right, fine.
Great
good
moment.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the next moment as well is very important when you end up having kind of a meal with Detective Rama and Navan as well. Like, and
that was fluff.
Proof, you made a bad decision here. I'm just gonna tell you, you missed a lot of story. You didn't pick the chef special.
I picked takoyaki, I think.
Because have you gone past and played this by picking the chef special?
I did not want to get
You need to go and
an
play
upset
it.
stomach. I just wanted to,
the chef
eat
special,
some delicious takoyaki, which is the
amazing.
answer on the quiz from Unleash the Feast that I got wrong.
Because it's
Which
guess
I
which
should have
one?
gotten right.
It was chef special. But the reason why you didn't remember chef special is because you didn't have the chef special. Because the chef special opens up a whole different ball game in this instance. You really need to go back and play it.
Does
because
it?
it is very fun. Oh yes. I don't know if anyone else has done it.
Special change.
I mean,
Does it just make you go a little?
No, don't tell them. Yeah, it makes everything go completely
wait, is it
wild.
bobblehead?
A little bit.
Not what? Yeah.
Oh, is it like when you're in that question mark map and everyone's like kind of like
A tiny bit,
yeah.
but it's fun. It's fun.
Yeah, it's fun.
You need to play it. You should
Okay.
go back and play that instance and just
who dropped
react
the
to it.
acid in the soup?
Pretty much.
And then
actually.
you choose to either beat up this police officer or security officer,
Which I did correctly.
or
I
reason
just-
with them.
I beat them up.
I negotiated.
I did
See,
not.
I don't like conflict. I don't like
But the one
conflict.
issue is
You
there's
don't.
no real. There's
Proof.
no. I mean, there's some
Wow.
dialogue differences after you've either beaten up a security officer or negotiated with them. But there's not that much of a difference in the storyline besides like
That
one or
bit's
two
not.
dialogue lines.
He pops up in Dragon's End.
Oh,
He's
yeah,
one of the
yeah,
lane
yeah.
guys.
The one of the
Which is very
Or
strange.
East or West. I can't remember which one.
I tried to be diplomatic with him. I can't remember if I still ended up having to fight him a
I
little
fought
bit
him.
at the end.
I fought him straight off. I was just like, screw it.
I'm trying to.
I didn't try. I'm just like,
It's just
I'm gonna
nice
fight
and
this guy. I don't like him.
Yeah, I was high on Chef Special and just went for it.
Okay,
That explains it.
I'm gonna give you an option.
Arborstone.
I'm gonna give you an
Ooh.
option here, okay? Because I realize we are at 3 p.m. Pacific. I realize that is 3 p.m., 6 p.m. Eastern. And I know that probably Boots will have to go soon and have some dinner. And we are almost bang on halfway. We are not getting through the rest of this in an hour. Like this, like
I mean, we could if we just do like the major points.
we
Yeah, do you
could,
wanna
but
you want to just like
that's just not gonna happen. I'm sorry. It's just not. It's just not. We could have a part 2 and just do it next week as well.
I'm okay with that too.
That's good with me.
Because otherwise, I wouldn't do this just. We're coming back, Kroof. I promise next week.
I might be busy next
No,
week for
Kroof.
Friday. I know.
No, Kroof.
But you can continue because you can use my gameplay. I'll be here in spirit. You can get Crichton Herald
I feel
on.
like,
Crichton Herald knows a lot of the
Yeah, that's
lore.
true. But like, I also want you here as well.
You want to know my reaction? Go watch my playthrough.
Well, how long? Okay, so let me just look at how much I've got written down. And there is a lot, man. There's so much more.
I think
Okay.
you just wrote a lot.
What I maybe did, but we have been going through. I needed to know for my own. These are just my own notes. We don't have to go through everything, but we're going to hark on that all of it anyway. How much time has everyone got left?
I hope several decades.
Existential.
Damn.
Existential. That's not what I mean, but
Damn.
that's not what I mean. I hope you do as well.
I do have to exercise a bit more, maybe eat a little healthier, but
I've got up to like an hour.
Yeah,
For me.
I could do like an hour.
You've got an hour, Boost. Have you got an hour?
no, I don't have an hour.
You don't have an hour. How long have you got?
No, you have several decades.
I have max half an hour.
Half an hour. Okay, that's not gonna happen. Maybe we can do Arborstone. Maybe we can do the next act or next
We can.
bit.
How about we just talk about Arborstone and
Yeah.
Anka? Because
Okay.
a lot of that,
Okay.
honestly, Echo Vault in between is just a lot of like map stuff.
Let's do it. Okay.
Okay.
So.
Okay, let's go.
Because then that will lead
Okay,
you all
but-
into like at Dragon's End, and that's like that's just like the final map.
Yeah. True. Okay.
Oh, but Minister Lee stuff. So Minister Lee.
So
yeah.
so everything I wrote down in my playthrough in the document we're just going to talk about basically. That's okay.
Excuse me. Kasu in the chat. Rook's gonna need an hour for the finale anyway. Excuse
True.
me.
That's
You
okay.
are
I don't
not
mind that.
wrong. But
So wait,
How
why are you
dare
saying
you?
excuse me then?
How dare you
trying to
talk about it
phrase
publicly in chat? You're
how
not
dare you
wrong.
call me out with this accurate accusation?
An
Arborstone.
yeah. Yes.
So we go from
Mm-hmm.
Nika's blade at the sushi shop, and then we transition pretty quickly into Arborstone, where we have some pretty big revelations about the Void and also Navan.
And my girlfriend is a
Yes.
dragon.
What type of anime are you watching?
Best kind.
Yeah, actually, yeah, that's true. Oh, yeah. So they get to Arborstone. You see these cast scenes, beautiful, legendary. Talk about the Kurziks, all this kind of stuff, very briefly as well. That's where Rama comes in, talks about history a little bit. Lovely background, love it, beautiful. They walk in and they're like, "Damn, there's like no one here," but there is people here. The Void are here. The Void are here, as well as one of the Salisbury dragons, who is now Void. They are the Void. They are one with the Void. They're dead.
This instance is really nice. I don't think it has a lot of like groundbreaking lore implications, but
Yeah.
it's pretty good for Navan because Navan's has left people there as like a sanctuary, and then
Well, I don't know.
Actually-
Is he good for Navan? Mate, Sean's dead.
well in terms of Navan's character development and like that revelation.
Oh, right,
you know.
nah, okay. Other than one of my best
But-
mates is dead, it's all good.
Here we actually get introduced to the properties of the Void for the very first time,
yeah.
with like the people who've been kind of manipulated and like malnourished, and like their blood is all gone from their body. All these very creepy elements of the Void. So we get
Things
to see the
floating
very
upside
first
down. Yeah.
impacts of it.
Yes, and we also get some of the setup, like you were talking about with KUUNAVANG, where the plight of the salt spray dragons is like really nicely set up, and her own losses in that regards, which I hope will bring her closer maybe to Aurenes in the future long term, because they both have kind of dealt with those sorts of things. And it has this great little setup to the collection that you get post Dragon's End meta with the other Salt Spray Dragon that she tells you about following this and following the reveal. Oh, sorry, Boots' dog has made an appearance and is beautiful and lovely.
Flailing.
But also, Jebro, why in the world in this document did you spell KUUNAVANG's name Koonavang?
It was 3 a.m. There were different spellings throughout the entire document, and I was just writing fast. I don't know.
I have to type it in the chat because it looks so absurd.
I know. Yeah, thank you for my learning disabilities, but it's okay.
You said, I'm not gonna spell check this.
No, I don't mean to. No.
You said, I'm not gonna spell check this. We're gonna go based off of phonetical spelling.
I know. I didn't mean to make you feel.
No, I don't want to feel bad. I'm sorry.
You were almost there.
Thank you. It just looks.
I can't
so
write
funny.
good. I'm sorry.
By the way,
Can't write. Fine. It's
can't.
fine.
look at the
You don't
screen
have
right now.
to.
I try
So
hard.
I really liked the effect that they have while the void is still there in Arborstone, like the rising little globs. That's really cool.
Oh,
I did have
like it's
I
the
have
prison.
post processing off on this, so it's actually not like the most accurate representation, but they did really cool lighting stuff in Arborstone.
Yes,
I
Obi.
turned the post processing off though.
That is the most spelling mistakes I've made in the document, that I will be winning. That is
That's
very
okay.
true.
It doesn't really matter as long as we know what you're saying. I
don't know.
got a giggle out of that one. I just really liked it. especially 'cause
Absolutely. Like it's I go off sounds. That's all I'm doing. That's
it's
all
fair,
I'm doing.
it's
I'm
fair.
trying.
I think the atmosphere of Arborstone is really well built up. Also, can we just take a second? Arborstone. It is ridiculous. Like, it is so gorgeous. It is so beautiful. As you even
What's so gorgeous about it, Rook, that you really like specifically?
No, the fact that I have a doesn't matter at all. No, I just mean the scale, the scope, the lighting. Even when they have these void elements, like just there in the shot, we saw the twisting columns that lead up to the corrupted Salt Spray Dragon. I mean, even in this instance, it's gorgeous, but the actual just building itself as you approach it and you see the light cast across it and this huge thing rising up. I was excited about Arborstone, but I kind of figured that because I didn't play Guild Wars 1 as intensely as many people did, and I came to it much later. I didn't know if Arborstone would have as much of an emotional impact on me as it did with many other Guild Wars 1 players. But from the moment I came in here, I was just awestruck by it. Beautiful work from the team. I mean, the upgrades as well just reveal more and, add more detail and all kinds of beautiful little charming things to it. But I really ended up loving this hub. I think it's my favorite hub in the entire game. I really love it.
It is good.
It's wonderful. We kill Sean. So sad.
Sad, it is a bit sad.
And then we have the revelation that has struck Boots by complete surprise to turn his life into an anime. My girlfriend's a dragon?
Oh yeah, Navan, sorry.
I was reborn in another world and my girlfriend is a dragon?
Literally anime titles. That's the whole title. I love anime titles so much.
They're
just sentences.
Yeah, so we found out.
Oh yeah, it's still cool though. I mean, I feel like that's a revelation I could live with. It's gonna be a little because she could turn back and forth, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's like if you want to go on a dinner date to Olive Garden or Nika's Blade.
I could ride her to
Olive Garden or
and then
Nika's Blade. Olive Garden.
It's like, come on. Oh, we're going to be late. There's traffic. And Navan's like, no worries, babe.
You want to take a Salt Spray Dragon to flipping Olive Garden? At least take it to McDonald's.
Okay. Wow, Jebro. It's
That's what Olive Garden is.
Nothing.
Actually, it's not Olive Garden or nothing. It's actually Nerf or nothing. But
I mean, you all know me, and you know that in the moment that they were like, dragons can have a human form, that this was the greatest thing Guild Wars 2 has ever done for me personally. This was, I recorded I don't know how long, maybe 30 minutes of me just looking at KUUNAVANG's dragon
Amazing.
form. And then I had to turn off my recording because I was still going. And then I took like 50 screenshots. And I still have all of them. This was a great personal gift.
So basically you spent so long looking at KUUNAVANG that probably KUUNAVANG best out of all of us.
Well, look at
would
this.
you say
Look at the
that
Gussie.
KUUNAVANG is more of a Olive Garden dragon or like a Cheesecake Factory dragon?
Oh, definitely.
Cheesecake
Olive
Factory.
Garden.
Oh,
What do you mean? Are we saying that Olive Garden is fancy? It is not. Olive Garden is like a chain restaurant. Like, what the hell is wrong with you people?
Olive Garden is the fanciest place to take a date. And
Oh my
It's not
good
bad,
lord.
but
You
Cheesecake
have
Factory-
no class.
Mama, I went to
would
Cheesecake
rather
Factory
go to
recently. It
Cheesecake
was
Factory.
so good.
It
was
is.
so good.
Like,
Olive
proof.
Garden is just rude.
Endless breadsticks for my dragon girlfriend.
But endless bread at Cheesecake
Just because
Factory.
of the bread.
They don't have that delicious butter with the like garlic salt on it.
It's so
But Olive Garden
common.
doesn't have a wide cornucopia of cheesecakes to choose from.
Exactly. What is wrong with you?
Need
Is it bad
cheesecake.
for to bring an elder dragon
Whoa.
to either Cheesecake Factory or
You are
Olive
fired.
Garden because you have endless anything, and as we all know, elder dragons tend to consume a lot, so it'd be pretty bad to.
She's not an elder dragon though. She's just like a normal
Okay,
dragon.
alright,
She's
alright,
fine.
okay. Yeah.
She's fine.
Like
what-
she won't run them out of business or anything.
Okay. I'm still shocked at what Rook just said.
What did
That you
Rook just
don't
say?
need cheesecake. Is that my favorite thing?
I'm sorry, cheesecake's not my favorite thing. It's
Who
fine.
are you today?
Fine. I'm so sorry. Dark Revelations.
That was like
about-
one of the clauses in your contract, which you signed.
Was it? I missed that then.
Yes, well, you should definitely look at that
Well, then that
contract.
happens with KUUNAVANG, and then
I
what
would
happens?
kiss.
Yes.
Kiss KUUNAVANG on the mouth. That's all I'm gonna say.
Oh.
Wait,
in
what?
either form.
Oh, this was totally unprompted.
That's
No,
not
I mean,
that's
we
not a
can share
fetish
that
that I know of.
Yeah.
But like, you know,
Is that
I
not what
don't
we were
kink.
asking
I
about?
don't
we
kink
kill
shame. I kink
Sean.
welcome.
Navan reveals herself to be KUUNAVANG, and then we go on a lengthy quest line in Echovalд Forest. Echovald Wilds, I should say.
Good
It's
job,
not the
everyone.
forest.
We're
And,
done. No, that's it, Croof. We're done. That's the
Oh.
end of the podcast because we have to end on Rook's, startling discovery. Our startling discovery. What happens next on the LightBringers podcast, episode 23? Rook finds out that, I don't know, something else, maybe.
That kissing dragons is awesome, and I was right all along.
Yes.
No, I just think KUUNAVANG's gorgeous. I want on a more serious note because clearly I have to leave it ambiguous whether
Wait.
or not it's a joke that I would kiss a dragon, but we all know the truth.
Yes, we
Given the
I
opportunity, who wouldn't?
I mean, come on, right?
Yeah.
Like, come on, right?
Fire.
I think the dragons, like the dragon models for both Soo-Won and KUUNAVANG, are so
Oh, yeah.
impeccable. Like, again, the details, the animation, everything, the colors. I just, my gosh, so gorgeous. And then if you pull up KUUNAVANG's like Guild Wars 1 picture, you compare, it's
Oh,
so good. She's like a funny little, I
You
don't
can
know.
see the polygons on KUUNAVANG.
She looks like the pet.
sharp edges.
She looks like the pet you get for free when you authenticate your account on Guild Wars.
Yeah.
She's not even that good.
And so look, they did the best they could. Things were still
Yeah, of
beautiful in
course.
Guild
Yeah,
Wars
yeah.
1. But I just thought this was such a gorgeous story beat. And yeah, this was really memorable. And she's gorgeous.
There's
Why
a
are you
po-
still giggling?
There is a
Oh,
poll
no.
in chat if you would like to engage in the poll. Thank you, Rita. Would you kiss a dragon? Yes, no, or depends on which one. Because
Smartest
Zaitan might
answer.
not be.
Ooh, although Zaitan,
No, wow.
You get a lot of action with Zaitan.
Well, you'd be able to become dead, then alive again, but undead. And
That's a lot of mouths to kiss.
You got a lot of mouths to kiss in that regard. Don't know if Zaitan would be my first choice personally, or any choice that I'd make.
a
But
face only a mother would love.
Soo-Won, you have some
people-
ugly baby.
Okay, there are some people out there, and we all know this, that are very into what Zaitan has to offer.
True.
Oh
Am
yeah.
I that? Maybe not, but that's why there's a dragon for everyone.
Hmm.
Yeah, and that's the wonderful thing about our world. Swiftly moving on.
The wonderful thing about our world is that there's a dragon for everyone.
No, that we have a choice.
So we do some stuff in Ekavald Forest.
What's going on my
fight through
Twitter
Ekavald
profile?
Forest.
I'm deleting everything.
And then we go back.
Sorry.
Don't we go? No. First we do the
I've
Anka
got it.
stuff.
There's a document, man. Like,
No, yeah, we do
look at
we do. So okay, actually, we did miss a
It's the
character.
instance. It's the catch
We
a
did miss a
spider.
character.
Go on.
We get introduced to Ayumi, the leader
Yes.
of the Kestrels, who
Oh,
is fairly
true.
important in the meta. I feel like Yao and Ayumi kind of function similarly, where like you want more story from them in like hopefully season 6, but you get more story from them by doing the meta events. So with Ekavad Wilds, you get more info about Ayumi and the Kestrels by doing the actual meta. So we go and do a
Yes.
bunch of stuff in Ekavad Wilds, and through doing that, we actually learn more about Anka, and we get to access her personal diaries and see that she's practicing Harbinger magic and tends to actually just focus on Zaitan magic, which gives a lot of backstory and reference to like when you fight her, why she's always doing Zaitan stuff. And you know, by doing more Zaitan, I think she begins to kind of, you know, dwindle even more and fall deeper
was a
into
bad
void.
influence.
Yeah, probably not a great dragon to focus
Which
on.
was death and doom for everyone, basically.
Yeah.
I mean, which is what Zaitan wanted at the end of the day. Just wanted everything to go. Yeah.
Dead
Yeah.
and good.
And
then
to a
we
bad place.
we gather the Kestrels with the help of Ayumi, and we go and face off against Anka
We do.
to
But,
hopefully get the extractor.
yeah, they're trying to. They're trying to find. They try to lure in Anka as well,
Yes.
specifically. But so before they do that, they've got to find. You know, they've got to do some research. They've got to find. You know, find a way to do that. So they do that by getting a airship, which is owned and used by Cannach, and who's the other person? I've written it down.
Not Zafira.
Saida.
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 And they have turned it into a. You are looking. This is a direct quote. You are looking at the world's largest VIP social club and restaurant. And I lost it. I think, did anyone else just completely shit themselves in laughter? I was just like,
This was
is
a little
amazing.
weird to me.
What is the matter with you?
Honestly, I didn't really need it.
You're
It
fired
just-
as well. Like, what,
Yeah.
honestly, how
First rook in the
dare you?
cheesecake, and I'm like,
Cannach is amazing.
I felt like the story would have been fine if we didn't have Cannach and Saida here.
This wasn't necessary. I did like the humor addition though. I liked the whole thing.
It was
thought
a
funny.
weird time for humor, though. It was like right before we went and killed Anka.
But that's the thing though. Sometimes it's nice to have that balance, you know. I think like sometimes, I mean, maybe it was. I don't know why I liked it so much. I just did. I thought he was funny. I thought the what they were talking about was funny. I thought it was a bit like, you know, it's kind of random how they had it. It would have been nice to find out a little bit more about that, maybe, to understand why randomly Cannach's here. I think we do later, but like, you know, it was just kind of funny, like how he's just completely gone into this place. But I think what he was saying was funny. But like basically that's general gist. They lure out Anka because they want this airship, and so you end up fighting Anka and the Aetherblades, but then Anka goes big as well. I don't know this bit. This is a bit where I'm a bit confused.
The actual fight mechanics, I think, are really interesting and kind of form up her character even more, and why I kind of associate her as the voice of the void, because I believe that Anka is the only other living entity to have kind of harnessed void to not be totally just die, because everyone in Arborstone that touched the void just died, but she is still conscious and utilizes it very well. The only other character I think would be Soo-Won, who was able to kind of, you know, waver back and forth between, you know, Soo-Won and Void. So, and it could have just been for gameplay, but in terms of lore, it kind of isn't consistent with how the Void works. But for the character of Anka, I think it really just emphasizes her like sense of apathy, where she almost kind of shares the value
is
of the void, where
yes.
it's like nothingness.
Absolutely. Like they've just become,
Yeah.
we were talking about that before, like you said, I think, Criff, I can't remember which word you used, but desensitized, very much so. Like you kind of be lost in this void of nothingness where nothing can really affect you. So because you've just witnessed it so many times. And that you just become like the abuser or the evil person or the bad person or whatever. And you're just doing this thing and you have no feeling at all associated with it. Your empathy is gone. You just want doom, death, destruction, badness. And it's just like, she's still dark. She's still like, and then she's a harbinger as well. And you're just like, what else? Is there anything? I don't think there's anything else. There's nothing else you could add. And even the arena is dark. Like even the where you are, the junk pile, like that meaning. What does that mean? Like junk, rubbish, like things you discard and throw away. Like like just the idea of what that symbolizes as well. So it's like all of the imagery and everything's so good. And then obviously this is a strike as well. So that's really cool.
Do you think that she became nihilistic because she saw Cannach's outfit here, or?
What? He looks great.
I mean, I think it's hilarious and I love this outfit. I agree in that them showing up didn't feel necessary. I did get a laugh out of it, and I thought it was kind of fun to see their characters come back, especially because we then end up getting Club Cannach that's built and stuff. So in that regard, I was like, okay.
I think it was one of those situations where if they didn't show up at some point in the story, we'd be asking, hey, where's Cannach this whole time?
Yeah.
They just pop in an Arborstone at the end and you do a quest line to open up Club Cannach.
You could have done it that way too.
Yeah, I agree. I do think the Anka stuff is cool. Yes, it feels like because she has given herself to the void, she has become almost an extension of it. She is furthering its goals in whatever way that it might have a desire to consume. How sentient the void is like a big question. Does it actually have a will, or is it just by nature all consuming and unraveling? Like there are interesting thoughts with that. Are the manifestations of what seems like the voice of the void just because of the almost the refuse, the runoff that is a part of it, the other entities or creatures that have been affected by it, or that it's touched or consumed?
We hear its voice once, don't we?
I might not be here next week, but I want to this is to kind of play off with what. Oh my gosh.
Because someone crashed into your home?
Apparently.
Is that why?
But to kind of play with what Rook is mentioning, I think at this point in the story, this is when, looking back, it kind of starts to fumble the ball just a little bit, because the void ends up actually having a voice that we hear through Soo-Won, but it's not Soo-Won's voice. It's a different tonality. And I would have liked to have seen Anka actually survive all the way through to the end, because I liked having Anka's voice actor be that like in-world character where it's not explicitly stated, where it's like, oh, now the void is talking. It's more so just inferred that Anka is in effect speaking for the void, and it's kind of that mirror. So personally, from a narrative perspective, I would have enjoyed if Anka didn't die at this point, and they kind of continued that through line with like the void kind of being this unspoken existence thing that was always there, but it wasn't like this caricature of just nothingness.
I don't mind the void being like, I'm not sure. I think I like the way they did it, because the void being what it's called, like being nothingness, being emptiness.
But would the void have a voice?
Yeah,
Well,
why not? I mean, it's just like this kind of, it exists, right? So it's a consciousness that's kind of existed.
Is
it's
it a
part of the
consciousness?
world. Yeah, well, technically, I mean, it's
I mean, we
alive,
don't
right?
know,
I
though.
guess.
I mean,
because
we hear what we
There's
would.
also,
Sorry, go ahead, Boots.
I was just gonna say also, Doom technically is also called the voice in the void.
His is like underworld magic stuff.
I mean, yeah.
Interesting. I mean, but they could tie that in if they wanted to something, I mean, it is tough here because I don't know. I don't even know if we really know. We hear what we assume to be the void.
Who knows?
This is why I think it's started to kind of crack a little.
But
this is what
isn't
I
this
mean,
cool, like parts like this where you can just have that hypothesis, like you can have your theories and it almost doesn't matter? Or is there a missing link or something?
It depends, because this does set us up for a great concept of the void coming back in some way, shape, or form in the future, right? And even Aurenes says later that she doesn't know if she will actually never fall to the void, right? She doesn't know, and we don't know a lot about it. And when it comes to the voice of the void, we also don't know specifically if that is something specific within the void speaking, or if that is the influence of the void on sentient creatures who then warp and twist and express using their language, right? Like what that is. We don't really know. And in many ways, I think the void is scarier if it is not just like some big bad evil thing hanging out in the shadows, doesn't like stuff, so wants all the stuff to go away. You know, like that to me does lessen it in a bit, in a way. So I don't know if we know. And I agree with you, Kroof, in that dealing with Anka here did feel a bit abrupt to me. I think the fight is great. I think there are a lot of great moments leading up to it. I think as far as how they plotted out the story, it works just fine. But one of the things that is kind of odd about Anka is that technically she serves a purpose. She freed Soo-Won. Soo-Won runs rampant. Her magic overflows. And, you know, then Soo-Won has to be killed. And it's this huge threat because she's being consumed by the void and the world is unraveling, right? So there is a reason for Anka to play a role in this story. But in many ways as well, it feels like, and I guess maybe Anka just fell to her own doctrine, right? It feels like what Anka did in the end doesn't really matter. Nothing matters that she did. While she did free Soo-Won, I mean, other than that, it's not like any of her plans came to true culmination. I mean, like, she herself did not really make the world succumb to this, except in a kind of indirect way, I guess. Like, and we don't even know if she actually even meant to like totally free Soo-Won. You know, she wanted to siphon her power, but it feels like Soo-Won escaping was just kind of like, oh, the facility got destroyed and Soo-Won hadn't been killed, so she just got free. So in certain ways, I feel like there was a bit of an opportunity dropped with Anka. I would have liked to maybe have seen her lead to a culminating moment or affect something larger scale with her plans to really solidify her as a villain, especially coming off of that cutscene with the whole like, oh, the sights are still off and all the revelations that we get about her and the void and all these kinds of things. I agree. I think it would have been really cool to see her continue as more of a figurehead for this antithesis in some way, shape, or form, you know? Even if she became like a draconic minion, like even if she became Void Soo-Won's champion in a sense or something, I think that would have been interesting. But I love the story the way it pans out anyway. It is just kind of interesting because we have these sort of drop-offs of other characters, right? Like at the start you think, oh, my Trin will be evil. Oh, it turns out my Trin wasn't the one perpetrating this. Anka's evil. Oh, Anka is dead. My Trin's dead. Now Soo-Won is...
Now it's Minister Lee.
Oh, yeah, Minister Lee. And then it's like...
goes to Minister Lee.
I love that so much.
Actually, not thinking about it, I think they probably should have swapped the arcs of Minister Lee and Anka.
Yeah, possibly. Yeah, because
then you would have
definitely seems like a less important enemy than Anka does.
And killing Anka right before Dragon's End, going into that void, maybe that would have been a better through line for Anka rather than her dying and then we have a full act of just going back to fight Minister Lee.
Actually, I think Minister Lee's fight or his revelation, anything about Minister Lee, didn't have to happen in the End of Dragon's story.
It didn't have to.
It could happen in A Living World Season 1, for example, as a new storyline.
Isn't it though, like, I think the problem here is that if you do take out the Minister Lee stuff, then you avoid a lot of what Cantha is about and the kind of underlining political kind of parts of what was introduced.
I don't feel like this expansion was really about Cantha. It was just about the dragon cycle, which is why I hope season 6 is more about Cantha.
So, but like they had to. I feel like they had. I don't know. I enjoyed the Minister Lee stuff where it was just because of like how. I don't know why. Like I get what you're saying because it was very dramatic. It's another one of these moments like this. There was this very dramatic thing that happened, and then all of a sudden we're taken back to a city, but And then, but that's dramatic as well. Like, I feel like you need these lulls in kind of, you need these moments of like world developing and maybe even story like elsewhere to be like, you know, so why are we all coming together at Dragon's End? Like, what about those wings? What about those lanes? Like, how is that developed? Why is that important? The different ways that we've come together as a people through, you know, politics, through, you know, the fact that, you know, we've brought these other people who were bad before, but now are good because we all need to come together for this cause. And that feels important. It feels like part of it. Maybe not necessarily that you had to have this big fight, but I think they knew they had to have this strike in as well. So maybe that was part of it, but it does feel like that.
I just don't think Lee's strike
essence
really informs that arc though, because I agree that it should be something where you are presented with a challenge, like when you kill Anka, and then you have to be like, oh, the extractor is gone, we blew it up.
Yeah.
But I think I watched a video on this as well, and I kind of agree that the Lee, I think it had just a bit of an awkward position in serving the narrative. I like what we did with Lee the fight. It's just its position within the narrative. It didn't feel like it made the most sense.
Okay, I can see what you're saying. Yeah, there's some wonderful analysis.
I actually agree with that. Sorry, I have another siren going by. It's been a very siren-y day today. But I do agree with that in that it almost feels like Minister Lee would have been... I actually do like the Minister Lee story beat, and I do think that coming off of things like the Ministry of Purity and the history and context of what that means in Cantha and its future with the rest of the world is really important. But it does almost feel like it would have been, yes, maybe positioned a little bit differently. Even coming at the end of the Kaineng section of the game, I feel like they were trying to draw it out more so that when he reveals himself as a traitor, you have, you know, like those sorts of moments. But it does feel like they could have tied something into like the breakdowns in the power plant, the issues and infrastructure problems overall with the different bureaus in the city, what the ministries represent, the history of those ministries. And then like other stuff within that would then eventually, it would lead you to this Minister Lee fight, and then maybe the other stuff in Anka right before End of Dragons. I personally do think that actually that reorganization would have felt more natural to me. As it is, I like all these pieces. Like, I do actually really enjoy it. I love that Minister Lee fight. I thought that was really cool and very exciting when I was first going through it. But I did feel like some of the Anka stuff right here felt a little bit abrupt. I was surprised that she was actually dead. Like, I went around and I was like, is her body actually here? And I went, oh, there. Okay, yeah. Well, and you know, I still think there were some fantastic moments within that and within that story beat. But yeah, it's a little bit tough when they're, I think, trying to plot out and plan even their map flow and the content and things like that.
But yeah, if one of the reasons why we didn't get enough, in our opinions, of Anka development or Soo-Won's development for our liking is because, you know, there's a production budget. You can't put too much into something. You don't have enough time. Then maybe Minister Lee's arc could have been moved to Living World, and then it could have been replaced with more Soo-Won and Anka.
Yeah, I mean, it's true. They could have reworked, I think, some of that and given us more time with those specific characters. Yeah, I mean, as it is, I do still think a lot of the stuff that happens in these moments, again, great. Like, I mean, End of Dragons.
What was?
Like, what was there is fantastic. And I even love the mix. We talked a little bit about the fact that Anka has the Harbinger stuff and then the Void stuff and the mechanics and that fight around the junkyard. And all of that, the first time I went through it, I really did find, I was like, oh my gosh, wow, this is cool. And it's really fun to see them, like we were talking about, integrate in those elite specializations and those actual combat styles that we know exist in the world. And to then see them iterated upon in different ways. I really did enjoy that. So, I mean, she was also, I think, in concept, such a fantastic villain. While she kind of harkens to certain aspects of other characters, like, I don't know, Scarlet's wanton destruction and other things like that, she does feel like a very distinctive villain in and of herself. And I think that well, yeah, I'd love to have seen a little bit more. Her doctrine and ideology is a very interesting kind of contrast to many other things that we've seen as far as villains bring to the table in Guild Wars 2.
This elevator ride was great.
It was dramatic. It was dramatic.
Yeah.
Croof at the time was like,
Marvel.
I don't know if I like these people joining us on the
Yeah,
lift.
they walked in. I was like, who are you?
You were very sus.
Where are you going?
You were very sus the whole time, and then
Was
you
it
were like,
Winter Soldier?
I'm gonna walk in single
Yes,
file as
Captain
well.
America.
This was funny.
Very Winter Soldier. Also very cinematic, going up and being able to see, the city skyline go down as you go up. Very cool.
Yeah, it was cool. And then you suddenly realise that, Minister Lee is a bit of a dick. And, he's got his own reasons, I guess, which we kind of know-ish about, I suppose. And yeah, good fight. We find out, and he's no longer in his position. Boom. Where are we at in terms of your time, peeps, as well? I just want to respect
We can probably
that.
wrap it up.
All right.
About 30 minutes,
We
3:30.
can talk for 2 hours probably about the last bit.
Yes.
Okay. Yes.
That whole map as well, the map story.
Actually, we should do that.
Huge.
That's what. Next episode we could talk about entirely in Dragon's End.
Dragon's
Oh,
End.
you
the
want to do
Cradle
that, do you,
story,
Mitch?
and the story. Yeah.
Okay. Do that.
Boots wants to do something other than fishing. But to finally know, I think one reason why it could have been repositioned is because we don't actually kill Lee here, but we do kill Anka.
Yes.
Sure.
So just those small details kind of just have influenced my picturing of the structure. Yeah, that's all.
This fight is great. The Minister Lee fight, I really love this fight. It feels really creative for our strike missions. Even though, I mean, it's a fairly straightforward ad fight in structure, in the sense that, you go between these two platforms, you fight him, you go back, you fight the ads, you fight them in different combinations. Even so, it felt so cleanly done. I really liked the combination of those ads, again, showcasing more of these elite specs, which is also fantastic. And that back and forth between the platforms, it was really smooth. It felt like a really big dramatic high point. The arena is really memorable, like we were talking about, up above the city. The top of the top, both literally like within the governmental structure, the sense of supremacy, lording over others, the fact that we know that the nobility and the rich live in the higher tiers, and this sort of ideology of the Ministry of Purity, and all these other things. I really thought all of that was so well done, and this was a fantastic moment. The fight really good as well, and it's been a fun one to run. So.
I'm just banning it straight away.
I keep missing them before they get banned.
I know. I
wanna
want to see the
read-
clown fest.
Sorry.
I want to read what gets banned, but I
No,
can't
it's just it's just upset. He's sad because they've actually been here for quite a while, and it's weird that they said that. Pronouns, and talk about pronouns. Pronouns are an important thing. That's what I want people to, say their pronouns if they
circus
want
is in
to.
town.
It's not that difficult. It's really not a difficult thing for me to. Why is that bad? There is no reason. Anyway, people can be dicks as well. There is that. So what we're gonna do is we're going to stop there with the Minister Lee stuff, because we've done pretty well with this so far.
We got through like 4 acts, I think.
We're up to Act 4 now. We're just before. So it would be good to kind of talk maybe. I mean, I guess in finishing that bit, we could say, there's another big relationship there between Lee, and I think someone mentioned it earlier. Like, what is the relationship between the people? Like, Lee is kind of
Oh yeah, I thought it was
the
like
father
a
figure.
father and a son.
Well, no, he is the
right.
father figure for Rama, though. That's something that is, hinted at, because there is that there. So I think you're very right, and cool. Okay, and he's arrested, and they go back to Seitan Province, and
Season 6 content.
things happen.
Yeah, definitely.
Have we enjoyed ourselves today? I knew we wouldn't get
Very much.
necessarily through it all.
Yes.
I like talking
I haven't-
with you guys.
I haven't done like a Socratic seminar based off a novel or a book or a storyline in so long, so this brought me right back to college.
I've not really done this before, so this is this new soiree for me. Like talking about stories specifically, because I tend to forget details. So going through that actually helped me a lot. So good job on the videos. Griff and Rook both have playthroughs. Please check them out. I do, but it's a little bit more of me just taking screenshots all the time. And it's on Twitch. I'm not putting it on YouTube. It's a bit messy and all over the place. But
mine was on Twitch.
Oh, you did do
I
it?
downloaded I just played through the first time.
Okay.
You should edit it. Put it on
Well, then
YouTube.
Boots. Edit it. Oh, I do.
Edit it, Boone.
This is like, if I find time.
Yeah, time. The time. So,
No, it was
outro.
very. I would say it was very cathartic to finally talk End of Dragon story. I've been bottling this up for months and waiting for this cast, so it was very.
Because every
fun
time we
with
bring it
everybody.
up on the show, Jebro's like, "Hey, you should wait until we talk about a story podcast." We had to do
Yeah,
the story
because like we
podcast. This is-
just did it.
today
Like,
we're
And then
talking
season
about
1
gem story items.
releases.
Today we're
season 1 ain't
talking about-
releasing for
Steam
years.
release.
You got to stay on
Always
topic here.
Yeah, we do. With some, like, you know, well, I didn't want to spoil it. People, you know, they enjoy.
We got a good way through. We got a really good way through.
Yeah,
Hell yeah, we did.
3/4 of the way through.
Through, and now next week we are going to have to find someone else. We got some awesome people who can come on as well, but Kroof will miss the final one, and
That's
was the
okay.
one badgering us the most to do it.
Actually, I think I was right. I'm not gonna take the blame for that. And Rook's gonna have the most fun at the final part because it's all dragon stuff.
I will title it Rook's
Dragon stuff.
Welcome to Dragon Stuff. It's like episode 22.
Somehow.
Dragon
Best
stuff.
expansion. Best expansion ever. It's all dragon stuff.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
That's it.
Don't you go wow wow.
Okay, yes. Awesome. Always watch Fridays, 12 p.m. Pacific. I don't know, we're going for an outro now. I've got to go and get my tattoo consultation, so I've got to go as well.
What are you gonna get?
I'm getting a
dragon?
tarot card on my
Oh, which one? The Fool?
Wheel of Fortune.
Oh, that's
My life path.
Where? On your foot?
No,
You should do it on the bottom
I've
of
got
your
this
soul.
here. I've got this here, and I'm gonna have that there.
On the sky.
Oh, all the way.
Right down.
All
Right down the middle of the ball.
Honestly?
People get hair tattooed on their heads all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna do that. But like, yeah, no, this one is a little bit more. It's not gonna be this intricate, but like this was 9 hours. I want this to be more like 5. So like it was a long time. So that I'm gonna get that console tonight. I'm excited, but there is the potential for some other stuff to happen tonight. I'm not sure I'm gonna do that, but we'll see. Okay.
Do it.
Okay. Everyone, thank you so much for watching. We have had... Oh, wow. The stream actually stopped for a second because my other screen is, like, dying for some reason.
Okay.
I've got the chat. It's fine. Outro time. Boots, tell us what you do, where you do it, how you don't know.
Hi, Boots. You can find me on World of Vendors at YouTube. Also, sometimes Twitch streaming at Boots_ with 2 T's, 2 O's. And on Twitter at World of Vendors. And I do stuff.
Nice. You do stuff. Good to know. Important. Cool. Good outro. Kroof. Next, same question.
Hi.
Uh-oh.
I'm Grove. You can find me on YouTube making a bunch of Go 2 videos. I'm currently doing a beginner's build video series just because I never finished that.
Nice.
And I also stream here on Twitch every day of the week usually Go 2 stuff. So come on by, catch me there. It's 80 degrees and I need to go cool off.
I'm sorry, but before you do, we do have to talk about your hot victory.
Okay.
in
We're
the
gonna talk about it
kitchen.
again. We did do Unleash the Feast, and I have been honored with the title of Feast Master, whatever title it is. I'm so excited. I cannot believe that we were competing for $10,000. I'm super, super appreciative that I won that. Oh, did they not tell you?
What?
Did they not tell you?
Is that a real thing?
I'll send you
You're
some.
just messing with me.
No, I'll send you some.
You're messing
Okay,
with
I'm
me.
messing with you.
Oh my god! Oh my god!
Could you imagine?
That was so good!
Like, I was 100% convinced it was a bit until the second time when you said, I'll send you some, and then I went, oh my god.
Could you imagine $10,000? Oh, that'd be great.
Oh my
Anyway.
god.
No, but I was very,
That
very
was
happy.
such a
It was
good
so much
lie,
fun.
though. You were
Do you think
really
they'd call
good
you
at
back
that.
for like a
A championship all
yeah,
stars.
exactly. All the
They
other
did do one of those
Wow.
ones. If they get renewed for another season, I'm a winner.
There you go.
Come bring me back for All Stars. I'll make great reality TV.
I'll come back for All Stars. That's great. That was solid. I believed you. You sold me on that completely.
If it was $10,000, I would 5-course meal. I'd
You
hire
treat
people-
yourself to a 5-course meal for $10,000. Cool.
Yes.
Is that's everything, was it?
Pretty good news.
I hope you'd save some. Maybe. But buy yourself some stuff.
Oh, definitely.
Maybe some
Thank you.
ham sandwiches.
Thank you for having me on. It was fun talking about story.
No worries. Thank you for your videos, which helped me to remember the story. Because I just forget things. Okay. Last but not least, Rookery. Same question. Do the things. Tell us the stuff.
Hey, I'm Rookery, also known as the Filthy Dragon Lover here on the stream.
True.
You can find me over on Twitch at Rookery, ROOKURI. You can also find me on YouTube at Rookery, and we will have at long last more portions of my actual End of Dragons playthrough that will be going up here this week. We've got a bunch of other content and stuff there as well, though, and a lot of other things planned. So feel free, come by, say hey on Twitch or YouTube, and you can also find me on Twitter at Rookery_. And yeah, it's been great. I'm so happy we finally got to talk about End of Dragons. I had so many feelings about this expansion, and there's nobody else I would want to share them with other than all of you and our beautiful listeners in chat. So thanks for the good talk, fam.
Sweet as. Last but not least, myself. There's two last but not least, apparently. I do Guild Wars 2. I am loads of stuff. YouTube. My 2-minute tidbit videos. I've got 4 videos up now. They're mostly for new players. Honestly, real basic stuff in Guild Wars 2. There's a little bit of effort that goes into those. If you want to check those out, cool. Otherwise, the podcast is like the biggest, probably. Spend a lot of time working on it, honestly, and promoting it and doing the things. So if you want to go and check it out on anchor.fm/JebroUnity. Check it out on Spotify, all the things. Google as well, like iTunes, all the stuff. People are coming through from the podcast mostly, and all the podcast episodes, like, for some reason, they're trending up. All I say. Well, that's because the game is specifically as well. So keep doing a good job and telling your friends about the podcast. Massively appreciate. Twitch.tv/JebroUnity, mostly on the weekends, especially after the 19th of September, because that's when I will be in my full-time position as a mental health counselor, which is sick and awesome and exciting and scary, as well as all the things at the same time. And also, please check out all my friends here as well. They are legends. Please go and check them out, support to them, sub them to them. If you've never subbed during September at all, it's September. Even though Twitch kind of sucks sometimes with this month, like they kind of do again. But if you've never subbed to anyone before, any of these people before, you get 20% off. And there's a rumor about even more so in the last couple of days of the month. So this won't age well if it's past September, but there is that. There's always nothing next year, I guess. We'll see you later. Check out all the things in the description. Purchase the game if you want to through links. And we will see you next time on the LightBringers podcast. I'm going to bring up Swell Cry across some faces. No, I'm not. I'm hopefully not. Let's do this. Pickle Patch Hollow outro. Thanks so much for watching, everyone. You take care and have an amazing, wonderful evening, Saturday afternoon, and have a biscuit on me. See you soon.